think Tevez going to Juventus, what a coup that was for me. I mean,
on a head-to-head battle, Atletico Madrid can do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
it is an upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
And Bayern Munich are going to be favourites for me against anybody at home in the world. The 03-04 season, actually, Olympiacos have won 8 of the last 10 domestic league campaigns, so there is only really one team in Greece, which we kind of already knew.
Because things have been pretty much decided, just as a quick glance before we go through the table, PSG is going to lock up this thing with 1 more point. Monaco's solidly in second place. Lille is going to be in that Champions League qualifier position, 7 points ahead of Saint Etienne. If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
I am your host, Joe Usello. My co-host, Rob Rojas. My trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio. I am your host, Joe Usello, and very, very, very excited about tonight's show. I think we've got a great one in store for everybody. First off, let me introduce my buddy Ben. Ben, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a good week, actually.
Yeah?
Actually had a few days off with my girlfriend this weekend as well, so I'm nice and fresh and ready to go, and we can talk to football.
I think we got a long one in store for us tonight, that's for sure. So, and my other co-host, Rob Rojas. Rob, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's great.
Good
to be on the show.
Hey, big result for you this week, man, or this past week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, against Joe Barlow Reading.
Yeah, beating the runners-up of the state tournament.
Yeah. No, I saw that, and when you said that, I knowing where you live, I was like, I wonder if they beat that team, and sure enough, you did. So,
well, we didn't beat, we drew.
You drew, but still, that team has been in Connecticut high school soccer. They've been a powerhouse for since I was in high school. I mean, we're going way back, so they've always had great teams, and this year's no different. So it's all it's definitely to get some type of result from that match is no easy task. So that congratulations to you guys. So,
thank you,
guys. Ray Hudson, what do you think?
Should be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's hope he's as exciting when he comes on the show as he is when he commentates.
If he's even a tenth as exciting as he is on TV, it'll be unbelievable. So, and right now, obviously, just like with Jeremy St. Louis a couple weeks ago, couldn't be on with us at the beginning of the show because of their schedule. They've moved the locker room to 6 p.m. on beIN Sport, and currently he's sitting right next to George DeMatteis, and a potential future guest of ours, which is Ian Joy, that we're working on currently. So, so we've got plenty of leagues, plenty of results to whip through here in anticipation of Ray joining us. I think we've got some great questions. Troy, who's in the chat right now, posted a good question on Facebook, on our Facebook page that I've written down. My brother Dan wrote down a couple questions that he's hoping to get back from his match tonight so that he can listen to the interview. So I've got those ready to go. And then, of course, anybody throws anything into the chat room, you're more than welcome to, and we'll do our best to get it on the air for you guys. So, without further ado, so that I don't keep rambling on, guys, Rob, I'm going to kick it over to you. Let's go through our La Liga results from this past week. Let's get a featured match for the upcoming week and a prediction out of you.
Yeah, we'll do. To start off La Liga, we got Eibar beating Elche 2-0. The Eibar with the 7,000 people, the small club that was threatened to not even feature in La Liga this season.
Rob, and what's funny is that if you ask Ben and I, last year, Elche was our official team of Low Limit Football. And now our new official team of Low Limit Football, Eibar, goes on to beat them this week. So that's bittersweet for us.
Good result for them. In all honesty,
Yeah.
You have Real Madrid beating Deportivo La Coruña 8-2 with a hat trick from Ronaldo and 2 goals from new transfer Chicharito.
Mm-hmm.
Granada beating Atletico Bilbao 1-0. Atletico Madrid tying Celta Vigo 2-2. Espanyol tying Malaga 2-2. On Sunday, you have Real Sociedad losing to Almeria 2-1. Villarreal beating Rayo Vallecano 4-2. Sevilla beating Cordoba 3-1. And the match of the day, Barcelona beating Levante 5-0. And today, just finished, I believe so, Valencia beating Getafe 3-0.
Okay. So just we didn't do a prediction last week on the on La Liga, but do you have a featured match for us for this week that we should be talking about?
I think I'm just looking at the matches right now. I think the match that will stand up for me, at least for this week, because I think there's 2 matches that's going to happen this weekend.
I noticed.
So I think the one would be Malaga against Barcelona, and Real Madrid Elche, I suppose. And for this weekend, out with Villarreal versus Real Madrid would be the featured match.
Okay.
So I think this is also interesting as well. If you look at the standings, you have Barcelona first, Valencia second, third Sevilla, fourth Atletico Madrid, fifth Granada, sixth Villarreal, seventh Real Madrid, and Eibar in eighth, equal on points.
I know it's only 4 matches in, but it's certainly fun to watch that Eibar team. You know, and following their last 4 matches, they've actually mirrored Real Madrid in what they've done: win, loss, loss, win. So
Yep, that's correct. They both have 2 wins, no draws, and 2 losses. But Real Madrid have the upper hand because of the goal advantage that they have.
I mean, realistically, I don't think we see it last this long, but or last too long. But it would be nice to see them possibly ever challenge for some kind of. Could you imagine little Eibar jumping into like a Europa spot?
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see.
The other thing
I think we're possibly getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I look at it as it's 34 more points and they could stay in the Liga, but we're definitely behind Eibar.
That's true.
It's definitely 8,000 and 3 couch fans. So yeah.
and just one other thing, I'm looking at the standings quickly. Levante hasn't scored a goal yet in 4 matches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
10
true.
goals against, no goals for. They actually have a draw. So who was the unlucky team not to score against them? That is actually Malaga, which is a pretty decent side. So so which of these matches do you want to give us a prediction on, Rob, or do you want to hit all 3? We got Malaga, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Elche, and Villarreal, Real Madrid.
I guess I could cover all 3. I think Real Madrid should take the Elche match easily.
Okay.
And unless they screw up someone like they did against Sociedad a few weeks ago, then I don't see any way Real Madrid could lose that. Malaga, Barcelona, I think that's also a hard one to predict, considering it's hard to play over there in Malaga.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Barcelona can do this. They could probably get a decent away win.
Okay.
And on Saturday, it's going to be a tough one between Villarreal and Real Madrid. Obviously, Villarreal and Real Madrid have 1 point of difference. So I think whoever wins this match, will have a play on what's going to happen in the following weeks or so.
Yeah. Do you want?
So I think it's going to be a close one. Real Madrid 2-1.
Okay. So, do you want to put numbers on the other ones, or you just want to leave them alone as winners?
I'll just leave it alone as winners.
Right.
I don't really think of a score.
So we've got you in the books for Villarreal and Real Madrid, 2-1 to Real Madrid. So,
All right.
excellent. All right, thanks, man. Ben, let's take it over to you. And actually, no, I'm sorry, not you. It's my turn.
Just quickly before we go on, like Troy said in the chat, shout out to Pablo Hernandez with a great backheel goal for Celta Vigo. It did deserve a mention because it was a really good goal, and anyone that hasn't seen it,
Absolutely.
jump on YouTube and have a look.
Well, he actually and Troy actually linked it onto the Low Limit Football Facebook page, where I got to watch it this morning with the little scorpion backheel was out of this world. So, I was almost hoping, because he did stand on the 1 foot and he kind of kicked it with his right foot. I was almost wishing he'd pull a Higuita where he'd take both heels and kind of flick it back. That would have been.
Well, I mean, anyone that's listening that doesn't know, we're on Facebook as well under Low Limit Football, and we'll post the decent goals of the week on there, and obviously you can ask us any questions and any talking points for the future show. But yeah, get over there or get onto YouTube and watch the goal. It's a great one.
Absolutely. So let's all right. Let's jump over to France quickly. Let's start off with Friday's results. Bordeaux 2-1 over Evian. I'm on Saturday. Marseille 3-0 over Rennes. I know I had some. Actually, I need to. If you'll bear with me 1 second, I kind of lost my page here. Because as you know, we do put a little bit of work into this. So again, Marseille 3-0 over Rennes with Gignac scoring a brace in that one. We had Reims 1-0 over Lorient, Metz 3-1 over Bastia, Nantes 2-1 over Nice, Toulouse 3-3 draw with Caen, 2 penalty kick goals in that one for Toulouse. On Sunday, I will go to our featured match last. Monaco 1-0 over Guingamp, Saint-Etienne 1-0 over Lens, and PSG 1-1 draw with Lyon on a Cavani goal. And our match of the week, the one that I put the prediction out on, and I apologize in advance here because I gave you guys a stinker of a game. Lille Montpellier was the featured match. This match ended in a 0-0 draw. All we really had in this one was substitutions, I guess, for lack of a better term. Just calling up the actual score sheet now, the actual match results, and that is correct. There were actually no yellow cards in this match. There were no red cards in this match. We had substitutions in the 45th, 60th, 68th, 76th, and 81st minute, and that is it. Couple things I do want to point out on this one. Lille really was the dominant team on this one, outpossessing Montpellier 62-38, outshooting Montpellier 13-5, and Montpellier did not manage a shot on goal, so Vincent Nyema had nothing to do this day. So, again, I apologize for picking a stinker of a game, I guess, but let's see if we can do a little better for this week. And we got a couple of decent ones this week, and I think I'll do the same thing that Rob did. I'll give you one result, but I will definitely talk about the 2 matches that I've decided to highlight, because the 2 matches in this one are actually between the top 3 teams in the league. So let's go to the tables quickly, and then I'll give you that particular listing of matches. We have Marseille, Bordeaux, and Saint-Etienne. All 3 are at the top of the table at 13 points each. Separated by goal differential. Lille is in 4th on 12 points. Then we have a slew at 5th at PSG, Montpellier, and Nantes at 10 points, with Rennes and Metz on 8 points each. Bringing up the bottom of the table, we have Evian on 1 point, just managing that lowly draw in match week 3 against PSG. We have Guingamp on 6 points, Bastia on 6 points, and then just outside the relegation zone is a slew of teams from 17th to 10th. All on 7 points, including Nice, Monaco, Caen, anyone else. Toulouse is in there as well. So the matches that we have this week coming up. On Thursday, we have Saint-Etienne at home to Bordeaux, which would be a matchup of first and third place, technically. I'm sorry, second and third place. And then on Sunday, we have Marseille hosting Saint-Etienne. On this one, I think I'm going to just pick the Saint-Etienne-Bordeaux match to give you a result there, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 Saint-Etienne win over Bordeaux. All 3 of these teams have only given up 6 goals. Their goal difference is actually based on how many goals they've scored. And currently, the league is being led in goals by Gignac with 6 goals, which he's actually scored 43% of the goals for Marseille. Erding is for Saint-Etienne. He's scored 3 goals, 43% of his team, and he's currently 4th in the league in scoring. And Roland for Bordeaux has scored 3 goals as well. I'm sorry, he scored 4 goals. He's 3rd in the league and scored 33% of their goals. All 3 teams have only lost 1 match each. Marseille lost to Montpellier in week 2, 2-0, and that was a home loss. Bordeaux lost on the road to Guingamp in week 5, 2-1, and Saint-Etienne lost on the road to PSG 5-0. That was in week 4. So if I had to pick between the Marseille-Saint-Etienne game, I think I'd probably say Marseille is going to win that, or there'll probably be a draw. The reason I'm taking Saint Etienne to win over Bordeaux is because Saint Etienne is like a different team at home. They're very, very tough to match up against. The crowd is very, very vocal. They're almost like a 12th man on the pitch. And so I'm kind of taking Saint Etienne, who's always been a good home side. At least they showed that last year. So I'm going to go with Saint Etienne 2-1 over Bordeaux. Ben, I think it's your turn to take us into Germany.
Yeah, we're going to go to the Bundesliga. There was actually a Friday game in the Bundesliga, so we'll start with that and we'll work up to the feature game, which I also got the prediction wrong, but we'll get there in a second. So we started off with Freiburg drawing 2-2 at home to Hertha Berlin. Then we had Mainz beating Borussia Dortmund 2-0, which was a bit of a surprise after the midweek game against Arsenal, but okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Stuttgart losing 2-0 at home to TSG Hoffenheim. Schalke drawing 2-2 at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. SC Paderborn beating Hanover 2-0. An interesting thing about this game, Paderborn were actually 1-0 up until the last minute, and the Hanover goalkeeper came up for the corner, and the ball dropped to the midfielder just outside of the area, and he scored an 83-metre goal, actually, which was the record for the Bundesliga, and he's beat the previous record by Stoppelkamp, sorry. So yeah, an 83-metre goal there by Paderborn to win 2-0. Moving on, we had Hamburg drawing 0-0 with Bayern Munich, another surprise result. See what I mean? But they're making it tougher and tougher on us to predict the games when the games are going like this. FC Augsburg beating Werder Bremen 4-2, sorry. FC Cologne drawing 0-0 with Borussia Mönchengladbach on the Sunday. And the last game to wrap up the Bundesliga, the game of the week, was Wolfsburg-Leverkusen. I predicted this game to finish 1-1. I thought it was going to be a close game. But Leverkusen actually had Donetti sent off in the 7th minute for a foul inside the area, last man, which was a penalty for Wolfsburg. So Wolfsburg 1-0 up from the penalty and 10 men. So after that, it got a bit out of control. Ended up finishing 4-1. But Leverkusen did equalise. But then after that they couldn't hold on, and Varini, Rodriguez and Aaron Hunt rounded off the goals. As far as the stats went, as expected really, versus 10 men, it was 64% possession for Wolfsburg, and 17 shots and 9 on target, whereas Bayer Leverkusen, although they had 12 shots, they only had 1 on target, and that was the goal from the penalty. Good for Wolfsburg though, bouncing straight back from the 4-1 defeat at Everton on the Thursday night. So it's good for their confidence, obviously. But like I said, after Wolfsburg took early control of the match. But Leverkusen, I thought that, after they went 1-0 down, I thought they was going to fall apart, which they did in the end. But they got the equaliser quite quickly through Drimich. But like I said, they couldn't hold it off. It was just a bit too much to play 83 minutes with 10 men. But what it did do is end a very miserable week for Leverkusen, who were also beat by a Monaco team that we've all been touting as a lot weaker this year, so a bad week. But switching that over on the positive side for Wolfsburg, I think they've shown that they'll be there or thereabouts again this year, challenging for a top 4 place and a Champions League place. As we'll just go on to the league table, and then I'll do the featured match for this week. We'll start at the top. We've got, surprisingly, FC Paderborn leading the way after 4 games on 8 points, along with Mainz, TSG Hoffenheim and Bayern Munich all on 8 points. But Paderborn have got a 5-goal difference. Mainz and TSG have got a 4-goal difference. And Munich have got a +3 goal difference.
Quite surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has done as well. Leverkusen are in 5th, 1 point out. But like I said, at the moment, even Dortmund back on 6 points. It's we're only 4 games in the Bundesliga though, so we won't take too much from it. As far as looking at the other end of the table, it's quite close again. Like I said, only 4 games, but Stuttgart propping up the table on 1 point. And then we have 4 teams, on 2 points. Hamburg, then Schalke, Hertha Berlin, and Freiburg, all only separated by 2 goal difference. So a bit too much to call at the moment, because obviously there's only a few games gone and only 7 points between top and bottom. But surprises there nevertheless. The feature game of the week for me, I had a little look to see what was going on this week. And Schalke Dortmund looks like the game of the week for me. It's at Schalke. It's on Saturday the 27th. And like I just said, I do think both teams made a poor start to the season for me, really. What you'd expect for Schalke and Dortmund is only 4 games, but still, you wouldn't really expect that. Schalke, no win yet this season. they'll definitely feel like they need something from this game. And Dortmund have already lost 2 of their first 4 games, so for me, I think they'll be in the same mould that they won't want to lose this game either. I do think Schalke are a decent team, underrated for me, and but at the same time, Dortmund the same, but they won't want to lose here. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I can't see Dortmund or Schalke winning really, so I think it will kind of point to a draw for me. But I don't think either team are defending very well at the moment, so I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in that one.
Okay.
Right.
And obviously Schalke, we've talked about, like you just mentioned, Ben. They're currently in the relegation playoff position. I know it's only 4 matches. I get it. But clearly have gotten off to a poor start in the Bundesliga this year. And then this team turns around and draws Chelsea in the Champions League. So, a lot of quality on the side. And we've known that for years. But they,
I just think they're a little bit underrated, what with Munich and Leverkusen and Dortmund in that division. They kind of get not talked about as much, should we say, but anyone that knows anything about the Bundesliga knows that this Schalke team is a decent team. But like I said, 4 games, it's easy to have a bad start and in this division, and that's why I think this will be a bit of a cagey team. I don't think either team will want to lose, and I think that'll be the reason why it'd be quite cagey. But at the same time, I don't think either of them are good enough at the moment to keep a clean sheet. So I just think that it won't be particularly high scoring for me, but I'm going to go with 1-1 and share the spoils and move on.
I hear you. So let's move to Serie A. We had some matches on Saturday. Cesena 2-2 draw with Empoli. Our featured match, which I will come back to, Juventus 1-0 over AC Milan at the San Siro. On Sunday, Parma 3-2 over Chievo. Genoa 1-0 over Lazio. Roma 2-0 over Cagliari. Sassuolo drawing Sampdoria 0-0. Udinese 1-0 over Napoli. Atalanta losing at home 1-0 to Fiorentina. In that one, we had a Curdle goal on that one, and Atalanta outshooting Fiorentina in that one 23-16. But shots on target were 6-6, which is obviously if you're going to manage to take that many shots on, you should get them on goal. So moving forward, Verona 1-0 over Torino, and Palermo drawing Internazionale of Milan 1-1. So going back into our AC Milan-Juve match, which was our featured match of the week, I believe I had predicted this one to be a 2-1, and I'm just looking up my notes to be sure, but I believe I predicted 2-1 Juve in this one. I did, and I was close. I got the right score, but the wrong tally, so I didn't stay. I messed up the 2.5 there, Ben. But this one was won on a pretty nice goal by Carlos Tevez. I'm just calling up the actual timing of the goal here at the moment. Tevez scoring that goal in the 71st minute on a nice play by Ogbonna, if I remember correctly. I'm sorry, with an assist. Yes, it was. I'm sorry, it was a Paul Pogba assist on that one. I'm just gonna. My computer's messing up here a little bit, so I'm just kind of catching up here. So in this one, our statistics in the match were shots on goal. Shots AC Milan 10, Juventus 14. Shots on goal were 4-3 in favor of Juventus. And they held the majority of the possession, 59% of the possession to 41. And in this one, what really sparked Juve in this match, it was being played pretty evenly, maybe even to the side of Milan, was holding the better part of the play. But a big save, a world-class save from Gigi Buffon about halfway through the first half, really sparked Juventus. And from that point on, they kind of took the match over and never looked back in this one. So, as expected, we did expect Juve to win. Now, keeping in mind this AC Milan team is certainly improved in quality from last year, where they were a total mess of the league, having fired Allegri, and then obviously now having gotten rid of Clarence Seedorf. So moving forward, they look to be a side to certainly be reckoned with, and they do have double matches this week as well. So let's hit the tables quickly before we start talking about the upcoming matches that we're going to highlight for you. Leading the way currently, Roma and Juventus on 9 points each. Neither team has given up a goal. Moving forward, Verona in third place with 7 points. AC Milan is Udinese is in fourth place with 6 points, tied with AC Milan. Inter on 5 points. Sampdoria in seventh on 5 points. And then we have a slew of teams on 4 points, including Fiorentina, Genoa, Atalanta, and Cesena. And bringing up the bottom of the table, Cagliari on 1 point, Torino on 1 point, and Empoli, all three of them are on 1 point, just outside the relegation zone. Sassuolo and Palermo on 2 points each, and then teams like Lazio, Napoli, and Parma on 3 points currently. So moving into our featured match of this week, we've got a couple of decent ones. We've got Roma-Verona, and Verona currently is playing on some pretty decent form. They're currently sitting in third place. This is a Saturday match, by the way. They're currently sitting in third place on 7 points. Their only blemish on their schedule is a 0-0 draw to Atalanta. And they've currently only given up 1 goal on the season. Admittedly, we're only 3 matches in, but they've only given up 1 goal. And Roma, as we said earlier, has not given up a goal at all. The other match that I'd like to highlight here is on Sunday. Is a midweek match, which is Parma, who's currently in 12th place, versus Roma. And this match is at Parma. Parma currently has scored 7 goals on the campaign, which is third in the league overall. But they've given up 8 goals in the league, which is tied for the worst performance overall with Sassuolo on 8 goals as well. Their goal scoring being led by Antonio Cassano on 3 goals, which is currently 43% of the team's total offensive output. I think the easier match to give you a prediction on would be the Roma-Parma one, because I think Roma's going to roll on that one pretty big. So I'm going to do the Verona-Roma match, and I'm going to go with a Roma 2-0 victory over Verona. I think this Roma team is really, really playing well. Verona is playing well as well, but to go into Rome and to do anything with that Roman side is going to be very, very difficult to do. Solid teams throughout. We've seen them high-flying. They played well in the Champions League this week. I don't see how Verona can come in and actually put anything on them. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 Roma victory in that one. So, Ben, that's going to do it for our Italy coverage. Why don't we take it over to the EPL and let's talk about the Premier League.
Yeah, we're going to go to the Premier League now. Full range of matches on the Saturday and the Sunday. Start off with West Ham Liverpool. West Ham beating Liverpool 3-1 at Upton Park. It was a surprise result there. Swansea losing 1-0 at home to Southampton. Newcastle drawing 2-2 at home to Hull. Burnley drawing 0-0 at home to Sunderland. Aston Villa losing 3-0 at home to Arsenal. And rounding off the Saturday, Queen's Park Rangers drawing 2-2 to Stoke. And then on to the Sunday, Everton losing 3-2 at home to Crystal Palace, another surprise result there. Tottenham losing 1-0 at home to West Brom. And possibly the surprise of the day was Leicester City beating Manchester United 5-3. Manchester United were actually 3-1 up in that game. And then Leicester come back and scored 4 goals. And my brother watched the whole game. Apparently, it was just awful defending by Manchester United. But the game of the day and the game I want to review is, of course, the Manchester City and Chelsea game, which I'm going to tell you the prediction, the result. I actually predicted 1-1 before the game, and it actually finished 1-1. So it's my first actual correct score of the season. So that's good as a start as we mean to go on. As far as the stats go, Manchester City 16 shots, 4 on target. Chelsea 6 shots, 2 on target. Man City with the bulk of the possession, 58%. But it was a familiar face really that stopped Chelsea getting a valuable win at Manchester City. A certain Frank Lampard, the Chelsea all-time leading goal scorer, netted a late equaliser for the Premier League champions on loan from New York City FC, rescuing a point 5 minutes from time after an afternoon of much frustration for Manchester City. Lampard actually scored 211 goals at in 648 appearances at Stamford Bridge. So it was no real surprise in the 78th minute when he came off the bench. He was cheered by the Chelsea fans. They were already 1-0 up. Schürrle's goal put Chelsea 1-0 up following Zabaleta's red card, and it all seemed to be going well until it was the Manchester City fans who were left cheering when old Lamps caught on to man of the match James Milner, who's carrying on from last season's pass. But predictably, and just to show there is just to show that he's the guy that we all thought he was. Even after equalising with 5 minutes to go, he refused to celebrate, which is obviously the right thing to do in front of those Chelsea fans. So that was nice to see that. But his goal ended the Premier League's leaders' 100% record. That's Chelsea's first game they haven't won this season. And but you could kind of see from the game, Chelsea went there not to lose. I think I said this last week. On balance, the most that Chelsea really deserved was a point. You could see that from the stats. But Chelsea set up, like I said, not to lose, and I do believe that Pellegrini came out after the game and it was a quote, something along the lines of, these so-called smaller teams come to Man City and try to defend, trying to take a stab at Jose Mourinho, but I can assure you that Jose Mourinho went there with a game plan that, he'll take a point off City at City and then try and beat them at home, and he's achieved that, so obviously he's going home smile on his face. But like I said, it was exactly how I expected it to go, and I'm sure how most people predicted it to be a tight game with Man City probably having most of the ball and Chelsea staying tight and trying to attack on the break. But Chelsea did keep it quite tight, and in the end it turned out all right for them. But yeah, 1-1 in the end between the two teams to watch in this division. Just going to go over and look at the table now. We run through the results. Still early days, only 5 games in the Premiership. We'll start at the top. Chelsea lead the way, 4 wins and a draw on 13 points. And then we have Southampton and Aston Villa on 10 points. Southampton in second with a +6 goal difference. As far as the bottom goes at the moment, we've got Newcastle actually bottom of the table, which is not good for Ray when we get him on. But Newcastle bottom of the table, 3 points, -6. And then unfortunately Burnley second bottom on 3 points. And then we have Queen's Park Rangers and Sunderland both on 4 points, but Queen's Park Rangers with the worst goal difference on -8. I'm looking forward that there was 2 games really that you could have picked out to preview this week. I was considering doing the Arsenal-Tottenham game, which is at is at the Emirates, but I do think that Spurs haven't been as good of late, and I do expect Arsenal to win that game. So I decided to preview my game of the week, which I believe is Liverpool-Everton. I just feel that these two teams, Liverpool probably slightly less than last year, and I do think that this Everton team, they just seem a lot more settled, and I do think Lukaku's playing his best football there now, so I think this will be a real decent game. But saying that, both, like I just said with the results, both teams lost this weekend to teams that they should have beat. Everton losing 3-2 at home to Crystal Palace, so a shock on the cards really, and Liverpool losing away at a West Ham team that are not really making much noise this year, and on paper, even at home, Liverpool should have got a result there. So both pretty mediocre starts to the season, albeit only 5 games in. No Sturridge for Liverpool, so I do think this game will be even closer because of that. I believe he's out for 1 more week, but I do think that after Liverpool only getting 6 points from their first 5 games, you do feel they've got a lot of proving to do to everyone else that last season wasn't just a fluke, and that they can carry on without Suarez, and also I think Balotelli wants to prove to the fans as well, and I think that coupled with the fact that you got Liverpool at home in this game, I expect them just to edge it, but like I said, close game, but I'm going to say 2-1 to Liverpool.
All right. So what I'm going to do is we'll close it out. I've obviously written down the predictions. Now I've been a little slack in getting them up on our Facebook page, so I will certainly try to get these up this week because I didn't put last week's up. But if anyone ever wants proof, they can always go back and listen in the archives, I guess, right? So let's close out our league coverage for the week. Obviously, we've got plenty of matches to talk about, coming up in most of the leagues this week, and then obviously in the weekend. So, Rob, I'm going to throw it over to you because let's go over to the Champions League and see what happened last week, and then if you want to throw it back at us for our featured matches that we all want to talk about, if you want to go ahead and give us the scores and then give us your match, and then throw it over to one of us, and we'll take it from there.
Yep, we'll do. Just hang on 1 second, let me load this up. In the first match day of the Premier in Champions League, you have Ajax tying PSG 1-1. Barcelona beating Apoel 1-0, which for me, I think it was really a surprising match because, yes, I understand Barcelona had their youth players on the pitch with Sandro Munir against this, I guess, Cyprus club that doesn't really have as much history. But, it was interesting to see that it was only 1-0, courtesy of a PK goal. Olympiacos beating Atletico 3-2. I think that was the surprise of that day. Juventus beating Malmo 2-0. Liverpool beating Ludogorets 2-1 at Anfield. Real Madrid beating Basel 5-1 at the Bernabeu. Monaco beating Leverkusen 1-0. Zenit beating Benfica 2-0, which I think all of us predicted that wasn't going to happen. I think we said Benfica was going to go to that match and take an easy win.
Yeah, we took, let's see, I had taken it as a 1-1 draw, and Ben, you took it as a 1-0 Benfica win, and Rob, you took it as a 1-0 Benfica win. So it goes to show you how much we know about this stuff.
Yep. We have Galatasaray tying Anderlecht 1-1. Dortmund beating Arsenal 2-0. Roma beating Moscow 5-1.
I'm going to rewind you back just a second there, Rob. You know, you're the only one of the three of us, you're the only one that predicted a Dortmund victory in that one.
Yep. Yeah, I guess so. Schalke drawing Chelsea 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. Maribor tying Sporting 1-1. Porto beating Batea Belarus 6-0. And Athletic Bilbao tying Shakhtar Donetsk 0-0. And I think, should we mention the Manchester City match? Or should we wait for the...
We can mention the score, but that's going to be our Man City Corner is going to be the Man City match.
All right. 1-0 to Bayern. Obviously, we're going to have more to talk about later in the show.
Sure. So which match did you want to highlight for us in the discussion?
I think the Dortmund match against Arsenal was quite surprising because I think you look at this. Obviously, I was looking at the highlights, but I've been hearing that Dortmund played perfect in this match, and Arsenal were just not having the type of match that they expected them to have, especially Ozil giving. I think I was reading an article saying that Ozil got the worst ranking performance by a German newspaper the following day.
I'll check out who scored for that. No, go on ahead. Continue while I'm loading it up.
No, it was just interesting to see how Arsenal, with these players, could see. I guess to lose by that big of a scoreline. I thought it was going to be close, but not 2-0, so to say. And Arsenal. Yeah,
sorry, I was to say if you wanted to, I was actually going to. I did a little bit of research on this game just because this one was interesting. I can give you my the opinion on it if you want to go off your statistics. I looked into this as well, a little bit like Rob. I mean, obviously, I was really surprised. Obviously, kudos to Rob for getting that right between us. We do know something about football. But as far as the stats go, Dortmund 24 shots, 7 on target. Arsenal only 4 shots, and only 1 of those are on target. The position was quite close. Was 54% to Arsenal, but you'd kind of expect that, I think, with their midfield. But even at 0-0, Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan, both spurned really decent opportunities. Really, I mean, you would expect at least one of those to go in. So it definitely could have been better. But goals either side of half time from Immobile and Aubameyang actually earned a really, really highly impressive victory for Borussia Dortmund at home. Just for the fact of the way they did it. Dortmund absolutely dominated the game. They looked a lot better than Arsenal. I do think this is both sides of the coin. I think Dortmund played really, really well, and Arsenal played really, really poorly. Really careless is probably the best word to use for Arsenal's display. They really didn't turn up. They didn't defend very well for me, and just couldn't get hold of the ball and didn't look very good going forward. Didn't look like they could create much. And Arsenal really, really gonna have to pull their socks up if they want to progress. Because if they keep playing like this, then the only thing that's going to save them is the fact that they're in a pretty weak group apart from Dortmund.
Just to add about the player ranking, according to WhoScored.com, the worst rated player in the match was actually Danny Welbeck at a 5.6. Mesut Ozil was second at 5.8.
No, it was I don't think it was from a English newspaper. It was from a German newspaper, actually.
Right. No, I had mentioned that. No, you had mentioned that. I just wanted to say, in terms of the only place I've ever seen player rankings done is on WhoScored. A numerical rank for them, and that's what I was able to dig up. Top 5 performers in this match, according to WhoScored, were all from Borussia Dortmund. Aubameyang, Immobile, Socrates, Grosskreutz, and Bender. So
Yeah, I mean, it really, it's what I said, really, that Arsenal they had no creativity about them at all. They really just didn't know what to do with the ball. I mean, they had more of the ball, but they had no idea what to do with it.
Rob, any closing thoughts on this one?
No, I guess that I knew it was going to be. No, I think Arsenal should definitely improve given the hard group. I think they have to go now to Turkey or have to place Galatasaray soon, and we all know it's not really easy to play in Istanbul.
They're actually at home to Galatasaray on Wednesday the
Right.
1st.
So,
Yeah. But still,
if they can get a good performance there, then hopefully it could be a tough group to decide.
oh sure,
In all truth.
absolutely. Ben, what match did you want to talk about?
The Dortmund-Arsenal was the game that I wanted to talk about, really. That's why I did a bit of review on it. I just think, although there was a lot of really, really interesting results for me, I mean, the Roma game, but we can kind of mention that later. That was surprising for me. Obviously, Porto was a great game, and possibly even the Monaco game. But for me, the Dortmund-Arsenal one was the one that I wanted to highlight. I just felt like to start off the Champions League, an Arsenal team that for me has got a lot to prove, really didn't look like proving anything, and then this Dortmund team goes away to Mainz and gets beat 2-0 at the weekend. So
Right.
yeah, it just shows you.
For me, another surprise. I didn't do any homework on this match, but just the result is a little shocking. Was Olympiacos 3-2 over Atletico Madrid. I did see some of the highlights on this one. With the shows following up the match. This game played out much closer than I thought it would be. Mitroglou scoring in the 73rd to make it 3-1. Griezmann getting one back late in the 86th minute. But looking at this one statistically, 59-41 in favor of Atletico. Shots were 18-8 in favor of Atletico. Just really not able to put one over the line there, and it really cost them. With a side that you've got to think Olympiacos is certainly not as strong a side as some of the others, especially some of the others in this group. I believe this is Group A. So Atletico's really got some work to do. Juventus ended up winning, which is the match I'm going to preview or talk about. But obviously being 3 points behind right off the bat, coming into the next match, which for Atletico, which I was just going to go look up now. I think it might be Juventus that they have next. Just going to go and research that real quick here while I'm looking. It is Atletico Madrid at home to Juventus. So they're really going to need a result against the Juventus side that is playing very well at this point. They seem like they've got a good head on their shoulders. Seems like Allegri's got them going in the right direction. Now they were loaded with quality before they even before Allegri stepped in. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, but this Juventus side doesn't look like it's actually skipped a beat, and they look like they've actually gotten a little better. And this Kingsley Coman that came over from PSG and Alvaro Morata came over from Real Madrid, certainly adding a little punch to the team. They're going to have a heck of a time, and if they don't get this thing righted right away, they could find themselves on no points after two matches, and teams like Olympiacos and Juventus running away with the group. So that was one of the interesting matches that I saw. The other one, obviously, as a big fan, I'm the Juventus match was fantastic. Now, this is the match. I got the two games mixed up. This is the match where Asamoah actually played a great ball into Carlos Tevez for the first goal. But Carlos Tevez' second goal, which was on a free kick late in the match, I think it was in like the 89th minute. Unbelievable quality free kick. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the replay of this free kick, but it was just perfectly placed. Goaltender had no chance, and sure, it's icing on the cake, especially in a match where Juventus completely dominated. But never hurts to add that second goal. Just to give you some of the statistical information in this one, Juventus led in shots 22-4, shots on goal 8-1. So Buffon only called to task once, and Juve held 70% of the possession. Guys, you let Juventus hold the ball for 70% of the match, and you only get one shot on goal. You're not going to beat them. I don't care what team you are, guys. I don't know if any of you guys saw this at all, or if you had a chance to look over the statistical information. Any thoughts on this match? Rob, I'll go to you first. Any thoughts?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Any thoughts on the Juventus-Malmo match?
I didn't really see any of the match. I saw some of the highlights, but
Yeah.
I think one thing I want to say is about Tevez, how he scored for the first time in, I think, 3 years? 2 years?
That sounds about right.
In Europe.
Yep.
So it's good for him to see him go back to his form. And obviously, I think it was a good week for Carlos Tevez, having a great match on Tuesday and obviously on Saturday.
Yeah, and I would agree with that as well. Scoring 2 in the Champions League, another one against a tough Milan side. Certainly man of the week, I guess, for Italian football, Carlos Tevez. So, Ben, how about you? Any thoughts on this one?
I think it's Juventus getting the job done, really. I think that obviously everyone fancied them to beat them. It's my favourites for the group. And like I said a few times, I think Juventus are the dark horses for me in the Champions League. They just get the job done quite quietly in the Champions League, and no one really tends to talk about them. And they're always going to be in that last kind of 8. And they're dark horses. It's a really good Juventus team. And like I said last year on the show, that Tevez is a real decent player, and he was a real decent coup for Juventus. And I'm really not surprised that he comes up and does this. If anything, I'm a little surprised he doesn't do it more often.
Right. I agree. Moving forward, we're not going to actually dig deeper into the Champions League because we're going to have this coming Monday show, a week from tonight. We'll probably dig much deeper into the Champions League. But just looking on the surface, guys, I don't know if you have the schedule up for next week. I'm going to rattle off some matches to you guys, and I just want you to give me what you think is probably the most interesting one. We've got, right off the bat, PSG Barcelona. We have Man City Roma. And anything out of that Man City Roma, Bayern Munich, CSKA Moscow group, any match out of that group is probably going to be a highlighted match for us. We've also got Atletico Juventus, like we had mentioned as well, guys. Is there one match that you're definitely stopping what you're doing to watch?
For me, it's Man City Roma. I think after Roma winning 5-1 and Man City going down 1-0 to a last-minute goal, for me that's a massive match for Man City. I think anything less than a win, and they're going to be in some real trouble in that group. And it's a really good Roma team, and I think this Man City team, they really do need to step up. And I think it will really be a good game to watch. And
that match is at the Etihad on Tuesday the 30th. So, Rob, how about you? Anything stand out to you that you want to watch?
For this week in the Champions League?
Yeah.
I think the PSG against Barcelona would be a good match, especially at the in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be quite an interesting match.
Yeah,
I want to view if there's anything else interesting.
For me,
Man City Roma also as well.
Yeah,
like Ben said.
And for me also, the Atletico Madrid Juventus match is going to
that one as well.
Yeah, that's going to be one to watch because of Atletico could technically get buried in this one with a victory by Juventus. I think one of the other interesting matches, guys, that's going to kind of sneak up on people is that Arsenal-Galatasaray match. Galatasaray, obviously, I believe they drew. Did they draw their first match? I just want to go back and look quickly before I say it. I think they did, but Galatasaray 1-1 with Anderlecht. So they draw their first match. Now Galatasaray has a chance to beat Arsenal, put Arsenal at 0 points after 2 matches. Could really kind of mess things up for Arsenal moving forward. So that's going to be one to watch. Although that is at the Emirates, so we'll have to see how that match turns out. Obviously, Arsenal's going to be tough at home to beat, but this Galatasaray team is always a surprising side, especially in the Champions League. So I think we're going to have to, definitely see what happens moving forward with them. So. Any other closing thoughts you guys want to add on the Champions League before we move over to the Europa scores quickly?
Nope.
No, I think we covered it about now. But I do think that the second round of matches are definitely going to give us a lot more insight into whether looking at Arsenal and looking at Man City, how the Champions Leagues are going to go. Because once you've played 2 of 6 games, a third of the fixtures already done, so you can get a decent idea of how hard or daunting task it's going to be.
Right, I agree. So let me run down some Europa scores, and then I'll check the predictions that we made in Europa from last week, comparing them, so that this way we can at least say whether we're really good or we're really bad. So leading the scores on Thursday the 18th, we had Saint Etienne drawing Karabakh 0-0. Borussia Mönchengladbach 1-1 draw with Villarreal. Apollon beating FC Zurich 3-2. 2 red cards in that one. Torino and Club Brugge 0-0 draw. FC Copenhagen, HJK 2-0 to Copenhagen on that one. Partizan Belgrade drawing Tottenham Hotspur 0-0. Besiktas drawing Asteras Tripoli 1-1. Salzburg 2-2 draw with Celtic. Dinamo Zagreb 5-1 over Astra. PSV Eindhoven 1-0 over Estoril. Panathinaikos losing 2-1 at home to Dinamo Moscow. Dnipro on a red card losing 1-0 to Inter. Let's see. Moving forward, Standard Liège 2-0 over Rijeka. Sevilla 2-0 over Feyenoord. Lille 1-1 draw with Krasnodar. Everton, as we had mentioned earlier, 4-1 over Wolfsburg. Young Boys 5-0 over Slovan Bratislava. Napoli 3-1 over Sparta Prague. Steaua Bucharest 6-0 over AAB. Rio Ave losing at home to Dinamo Kiev 3-0. PAOK beating Dinamo Minsk 6-1 at home. Fiorentina 3-0 over Guingamp. Trabzonspor on the road 2-1 over Medalist. And closing out the scores, Legia Warsaw 1-0 over Lokeren. Going back to the predictions, we had Mönchengladbach Villarreal. I predicted a 2-0 victory. Rob predicted a 1-0 victory, and Ben took a 1-1 draw. So Ben gets the prize in that one with an exact score of 1-1. Sevilla Feyenoord. Let me find that one quickly here. I believe that was, Sevilla 2-0 over Feyenoord. Let's see here. I took a 0-0 draw. Rob, you took a 2-1 Sevilla victory. And Ben, right on the money, 2-0. And the last one, Everton-Wolfsburg. We all had Everton winning this one. Unfortunately, Ben, you couldn't keep the perfect record going because you took it 1-0. Rob, you took it 2-0. I got the 2.5 or better because I took it 2-1 Everton. And that match, as we had discussed earlier, finished 4-1 to Everton. So, Ben, I guess if we're going to bet, we're betting with you from now on.
I had Chelsea this week as well, 1-1. So.
And you did have Chelsea this week, 1-1.
That's 3 out of 5. That's not bad.
Yeah, you also had you did also have 2-1. You had the Bayern result correct, just the wrong goals against or goal amount. You also had, I believe, didn't you? Oh no, we all blew the Zenit match, and the only one that got the Dortmund match correct was Rob. You got the Dortmund victory, but you didn't get the 2.5. So, when we've got 3 of us shooting at games, it's actually not too bad. Ben, should we go into this Wolfsburg Everton match? Should we take a look at these stats? What do you guys think? I think we're running a little ahead of schedule here tonight. So,
yeah, if you want to open up, have a look.
Yeah, let's go have a look at that. That was Everton Wolfsburg, the one where I'm actually patting myself on the back. 4-1. We had a Ricardo Rodriguez own goal to give Everton the 1-0 lead. Seamus Coleman scoring in the 45th minute to make it 2-0. Leighton Baines on a penalty in the 47th to make it 3-0. Kevin Morales scoring in the 89th minute to make it 4-0. And then Ricardo Rodriguez making up for his error in the 15th minute by scoring a goal in the 90th minute, finalizing the score at 4-1. According to Who Scored, man of the match, Tim Howard. And we'll see that Tim Howard's the man of the match because 27 shots, 13 on target for Wolfsburg in this one, gentlemen. They also held the slight edge in the possession, 51-49. Tim Howard doing his World Cup impersonation again, I guess, by giving you 12 saves on 13 shots. I mean, guys, why don't we talk about Tim Howard as one of the top 5 goaltenders in the world every week? I mean, he seems to turn these types of performances in time and time again.
I think he has been classed as that. I just think that after he left Manchester United and went down to Everton, he just doesn't get quite as much in the limelight. Just because he's at Everton and he's not at a quote unquote top 4 club in England. But yeah, of course he is. I mean, I was reading the review of this game actually. Funnily enough, lucky you picked this one. A couple of days ago on the UEFA website, and they said that it was far from as comprehensive as the scores suggested. I think it was a lot of good Everton defending, a lot of shots blocked, and 12 shots on target from Wolfsburg. So it just shows you, Tim Howard, he's had another good game, and this is what it is. A lot of the times it's thanked worth, as I know, playing in goal. But when you're on, and it looks like Tim Howard is on quite a lot here, and he can be the difference for them, especially if they're gonna try and make a push at this Champions League. I mean, they need something really to come from somewhere, because man for man, they're probably not as good as the top four, and if Tim Howard's worth 5, 6, 8 points a season, then then that could be the difference between you squeezing into that last Champions League spot.
Right. The other thing I want to point out in this one is Samuel Eto'o with an assist in this one. This is a guy that had his run in with Jose Mourinho over at Chelsea. Seemed to have found a new home. He was a free agent for the longest time, guys. If you remember, he was kind of signed towards the end of the transfer window for Everton. Almost as an afterthought. And I've seen him produce now in a couple of matches. He produced in, that match Everton had a couple of weeks ago, came off the bench and actually scored a goal. I think that was in the Chelsea match, which was that outrageous game where there were goal after goal after goal. Here he's putting in an assist off the bench for Everton against a solid Wolfsburg side. What are you guys' thoughts? Rob, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What are your thoughts on Samuel Eto'o? Do you think he can revive his career under Roberto Martinez at Everton?
I think having the fact that he has to compete with Lukaku, or I think I haven't been watching Everton as much, but has Eto'o and Lukaku been playing in the same formation?
They have, and in fact, in this particular match, in this Wolfsburg-Everton match, Eto'o subbed on for Lukaku in let me go look at that, in the 69th minute. So, it looks to me at that point the match is 3-0 Everton. Probably taking Lukaku off, for good measure, just to save him for the league matches over the weekend. But at the same time, certainly a viable substitute, I would say, in Samuel Eto'o, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think for him to revive his career, he would need to show off good performances for the club.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess find a way to compete with Lukaku as that main striker.
Yeah, especially the way because they've been playing a 4-2-3-1 with Lukaku as the lone striker up top. The only thing I can say, guys, in negative of Everton in this match is, my God, guys, 27 shots, 13 on target. I think the problem there is that the defenders like Coleman and Leighton Baines are known more for their offense than their defense, and they're really getting stuck. It doesn't seem like they're getting much help from Gareth Barry in there. Ben, I know you've probably seen a little more of Everton than I have. I've seen quite a bit of them, but I mean, what are your thoughts on them? They gave up 6 to Chelsea. They give up 27 shots, I said here, 27 shots to Wolfsburg. I mean, can they continue on like this, or is this going to be something that's going to be a problem for them?
This is what I said last week on the show. I said it depends whether the Everton that turned up, because obviously I said it wasn't really a test against West Brom. They don't have that much going forward. But yeah, like when they played against a good strike force and a very creative midfield like Chelsea, they looked, very, very understrength to the back. And I think they showed this again here. I mean, in fairness to him, Tim Howard did play. He did play really, really well, but the defenders didn't play that bad in this game. In fairness, there was quite a lot of blocks, and they did stay a little bit tighter here. But I do think they get stretched a bit too much, and you can't leave it all to Barry to do on his own. I'm not sure who the other one is that plays in the 2, because I know that Naismith's been dropping in the hole behind Lukaku, and he's actually the second top goal scorer this season. I believe it's possible. I think it's Stones who's playing in there. But for me, if they're going to play this formation, they need another kind of box-to-box midfielder that they can sit in, and they, alongside Barry, that can go up and help and support the free when it's needed, but also to help out the defence and to fill in the gaps, because, like I said, their fullbacks like to get forward a lot, and you've got to have players prepared to cover those gaps. But it looks like they're scoring goals. It's just whether they can, like I said, whether they can close it up. Because if they carry on like this in general, then no, they're going to get torn apart in arguably the strongest league in the world.
Yeah, I think I think that unless they shore up this defense, I mean, Tim Howard is certainly good for a few match saving saves a game, but if they don't shore this up, you're going to see Chelsea run all over them again. You're going to see teams like City that are high scoring in league do it to them. You're going to see even teams like Arsenal that are certainly strong. If they can get Mesut Ozil turned around, they're going to start putting some pressure on this Everton side. And like Hotshot said in the chat, Balotelli. Liverpool might end up chipping in a few on them as well. So I think they've really got to, Roberto Martinez, who does like to play that wide open style. He did it with Wigan before he moved on to Everton last year. I think he's really got to start looking at the defense and seeing what he needs to do to shore up their formations to maybe make a better run at it. Do you think maybe they should even go 5 in the back? Maybe go like a 5-1-3-1. I mean, maybe instead of playing McCarthy or Barry back there, pulling one of those guys off for a central defender that they may have on the bench that currently I'm just missing at the moment. But maybe that's the option.
I think they need to go out and get a little bit more cover, because I mean, even once they have their first choice defence out, there's not many defenders at Everton of any substantial quality once you put the back four out. I mean, once you've got Coleman and Baines and Distan there, and Jagielko, and that's the four. There's not really anyone else there. I mean, like I said, you got John Stones who can play that kind of defensive midfield and come back and play in defence as well, who we saw in the midweek game. But then there's not really anyone else there. I mean, Tony Hibbert's kind of going over the hill. So for me, you have to go out. You've got to buy one more, if not to play 5, but at least to have some kind of cover there. And I just don't think they've got that. They've always relied on the youth at Everton, which is or finding decent transfers. And this is why it's been. I think it's great. It's a big testament to them that they are where they are, because they really haven't spent much money, and this squad that they've done on, apart from the Lukaku transfer, for the most part, this squad is made up of hardly any money spent at all. So,
True.
You have to pat them on the back. There's not as much money there as that, their Premier League place says, and so that they continue to improve. And that's the thing. They don't, unless they can break into the Champions League. Sorry. There's just not the money there to go out and spend big money on a defender, and it's kind of a bit, swings and roundabouts really. Every year they don't quite earn the money to bring in the big players, and then it goes on and so on and so on. So, but you got to, I'm confident Martinez knows what he's doing, and he's definitely, like he showed at Wigan, he can definitely get the best out of what's there. But I just don't think that Martinez likes to play particularly defensive. I mean, he had a Wigan team that was, on paper like a schoolboy team, and he played 3-4-3 with that Wigan team. So I don't really think you're going to see them change their formation. I think they'll keep play 4-2-3-1. But like I said, you just need to stick someone in there next to Barry. Could play a little bit box to box, and I just think there's a few more of those around that they could get on the cheap rather than the defenders now, because it just seems that you want a decent centre back nowadays, which I think, like I said, I think they do need. Then you just got to spend the money, and at the moment it's just not there. And I also think that Distan needs to stand up, because he hasn't been that good this season yet.
Yeah, I would agree. And actually, Stones is the one that played this match over Distan on the back four. So. It's certainly going to be interesting to see. Obviously they score a lot of goals in the EPL. It's going to be interesting to see if Everton can keep up with that with the defense and the structure that they currently have. So I'll tell you what. Let's wrap up the Europa League, and if we have to stall for time for Ray to come on, what we'll do is we'll come back to a Europa match. We could always come back and talk about the Napoli match. Dries Mertens scoring 2 goals in that one, so it's probably something worth talking about. So. I'll tell you what, let's stick with the Champions League theme, guys. I'm kind of reversing it here a little bit. And let's do the CONCACAF Champions League matches that happened during the week. We forgot to cover them 2 weeks ago. And this is the competition that's running alongside the regular Champions League. And we've got a few American teams in this. So I'm just going to kind of scroll over to the matches that we missed. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We just didn't preview any of these. The first match was Tuesday, September 16th, which was the day after our show. So if you guys don't mind dozing off there for a bit while I cover our American stuff, I'll go ahead and take care of it. DC United on September 16th, this is last Tuesday, beat Waterhouse 2-1. Cruz Azul 3-0 over Chorillo. Portland Timbers 4-2 over Olympia. That game was a pretty heated match with two teams that are really fighting for the top spot in that group. On Wednesday, we had a little bit of an upset in the Montreal Impact beating the New York Red Bull 1-0 in New York on that one. I believe that was a Marco De Vaio goal in that one to solidify that one. In the probably the embarrassing score of the evening, Club America from Mexico beat Bayamon from Puerto Rico 10-1, boys. I'm going to dig into that one in a second. Municipal 3-0 over Real España on Thursday. Sporting KC beating a tough Saprissa side 3-1, and Herediano beating Metapan 4-2. So let's go into that Bayamon America match. Let's see if we can get any statistical information on that one. The CONCACAF website is not the best in the world in terms of giving us all the goal scoring and information that we'd like. So pulling up the statistics on this one, America led the way with shots 30-5, assists 5-1, corner kicks 9-1 in favor of America. Obviously, America is going to hold the edge in all kinds of stuff except for fouls and clearances because they didn't really need to clear anything. Other than that, it's not really giving me the goal scorers. I can try to look these up individually. We had Luis Ray in the 3rd minute for America. In the 4th minute, we had Gil Buron. In the 5th minute, we had Luis Ray again with a goal. Gonzalo Diaz in the 14th minute. In the 35th minute, Luis Ray completing the hat trick. In the 42nd minute, we had Martin Zuniga to make it, 6-0. Then we get a goal from Hosman Ramos in the 48th minute to make it 6-1. But then Zuniga again in the 58th minute. Emilio Sanchez in the 67th minute. Zuniga again in the 87th minute. And Sanchez again in the 88th minute, closing out the scoring on that one, guys. 10-1 in what is supposed to be a competitive competition, for lack of a better word, where you're supposed to have the best of each region in the matches. I mean, guys, 10-1, honestly, what are your thoughts on that? Rob, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts on seeing a 10-1 match in this type of competition?
Surprising.
Yeah.
I don't think I haven't seen a 10-1 match since Spain beat Tahiti in the Confederations Cup.
Right, and that is, and that's another unfortunate one when you see something like that. But 10-1 is ridiculous. Is a ridiculous number. Ben, how about you? What are your thoughts on 10-1?
I mean, for the most part, like I said, you don't usually see 10-1 unless teams of masses and masses of quality differential play against each other. But I mean, like I said, it's not that big in this competition. So I mean, really, all you can really put it down to is maybe nerves. Lack of experience in games that big, because for a lot of these clubs, this massive games, and it affects people in different ways. Some people, it fires them up to bring out their absolute best, and for some people, it cripples them mentally, and they just can't function. So I guess for me, that's what you can really put it down to. Maybe nerves got to them, and they didn't quite play up to the standards that they know they can.
Right, I agree. I'm going to highlight a couple other matches in the Champions League because we're not going to be hitting them for a couple weeks. We had the Portland Timbers, like I had mentioned earlier, 4-2 over Olympia. In this one, we had goals by Maximiliano Urruti in the 11th minute for Portland, followed by a tying goal by Kevin Hernandez for Olympia in the 20th. Will Johnson in the 26th minute to regain the lead for Portland. And then just before the half, Ramon Kyoto in the 44th minute to go into the locker rooms tied at 2. In the second half, we had Urruti again in the 57th minute, and we had, if it's not coming up for me here for some reason. Oh, boy. Rashwan McKenzie scoring, in the 77th minute. Sorry for the delay there. 72nd minute to close out the scoring at 4-2. Shots on this one were 11-9 in favor of Olympia. Other statistics that are interesting: Olympia actually spending a lot of time in clearances, 13-9, and Portland doing all the recovering in that match as well. So that was another interesting match that I saw. That match was kind of back and forth. The one thing that drives me crazy about the Portland Timbers is that they don't play on real grass. How hard is it to grow grass, guys? That stuff just drives me crazy. The other match that I want to call up here is the Red Bull Montreal Impact match. That was a Montreal victory of 1-0, and this was played at Red Bull Arena. The reason I'm going to go through the statistics in this one, guys, and like I had mentioned, it was Marco Di Vaio in the 16th minute, the only goal of the game. But this match was really it was a tale of two cities. The team that went out there for the Montreal Impact is certainly a starting team for them. It's a team that they would field in any of their MLS matches. Evan Bush in goal for them. Heath Pierce, former U.S. international, on defense. Again, Ignacio Piatti playing up top in the midfield with Marco Di Vaio as the forward, who is also a regular for them on the starting time. In the Red Bull match, we have Ryan Mira, who started in goal, who normally does not play goal for them. We had Armando. And the only reason I know about Armando is because my daughter wears number 5 for her Red Bull side. But Armando doesn't even see the pitch to start for the regular starting 11. Kosuke Kimura doesn't see the pitch for the starting 11. We had no Thierry Henry in this one. We had no Bradley Wright Phillips in this one. Sire Sen comes on to this one. He plays this match for most of the match. He's a guy that doesn't is really third string for them. In fact, just looking on the list of players, there was no Thierry Henry and no Bradley Wright Phillips to even be had in this one. So really just a B squad here. And it's kind of interesting because the Red Bull obviously could have used this particular match as a victory, but certainly more concerned with their ability to get into the playoffs here for MLS. So moving forward on the CONCACAF Champions League, which we'll cover coming up soon, their next set of matches is coming up on. Actually, I'm sorry, it is this week. We've got Sporting KC tomorrow night against Real Esteli. We have the Timbers playing Alpha United at home at Providence Park. On Wednesday, we have Pachuca versus Municipal. We have DC United against Tauro. We have FAS playing the Red Bull and Cuscatlan. And we have Herediano Leon. And on Thursday, we have Bayamon Comunicaciones, Chorillo, and I'm going to butcher this one, Ahlanuese. How's that sound, Rob? You're a Spanish expert.
I'm sorry. What was the team?
Ahlanuese.
Ahlanuese. I think that sounds about right.
Alajuelense.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Okay. Ahlanuese.
Ahlanuese.
Whatever. They're playing. They are playing at the Estadio Maracanã, which I'm sure is not the Estadio Maracanã that we're all used to. So, but those are our matches. We're gonna have a few good ones this week. Obviously, the Red Bull, if they can pick up a victory on the road against FAS, they're pretty much all the way home. They'd beaten FAS at home earlier in this competition. DC United should be able to take care of Tauro at home at RFK Stadium. Sporting KC should be able to handle Alpha and should be able to handle Esteli, and the Portland Timbers should be able to take care of Alpha. So for MLS, we should see a pretty good week for the CONCACAF Champions League, and we'll come back next week and cover that as well. So let's head over, guys. Ben, do you want to do Blackburn now, or do you want to do the MLS scores and highlights?
We'll do the MLS since we're over in South America, and then we can go to Blackburn after, and then.
All right, let's do that. Okay, so giving you the scores and highlights from the MLS from this week, and we are getting down to crunch time. Most teams only have about 5 matches left before the playoffs. We have Real Salt Lake 5-1 over the Colorado Rapids. Portland Timber 3-0 over the Vancouver Whitecaps. Troy, I will cover that one for you in a moment. Philadelphia Union 0-0 draw with the Houston Dynamo. Columbus Crew 1-0 with the New England Revolution. New York Red Bull 4-1 over the Seattle Sounders. Montreal Impact 2-0 over the San Jose Earthquakes. Chicago and DC United play to a 3-3 draw. The LA Galaxy beats FC Dallas 2-1. And in our Sunday matchup, we had Toronto FC 3-0 over Chivas. I'm going to hit the statistics on the Portland-Vancouver match. This was a very important match for the playoff picture. Both teams sit in 5th and 6th, respectively, now with the Portland Timbers' victory over Vancouver. Previously, before the match, it was Vancouver in 5th. So these guys are very, very tight in terms of where they stand in the league. We had a goal from Diego Valeri in the 28th minute, a goal in the 66th by Fernando Adi, and a goal in the 69th, again by Adi, to make it 3-0. Statistics in this one, we have shots were 16-10 in favor of the Whitecaps, but 6 on 4 on target in favor of the Timbers. And we had Timbers with 51% possession. Again, this is a match that is going to go a long ways for playoff implications for the Western Conference, seeing that these guys are neck and neck for that final playoff spot. So that was certainly one match that bared discussing quickly, at least going into the statistical information. The second one I do want to hit up is this New York Red Bull Seattle Sounder match. The Red Bull been playing much better as of late, obviously suffering the 1-0 loss to the Montreal Impact with their B squad in the Champions League match. But this is a match that you would have never expected this score line, at least. Seattle Sounders were leading the way in the Western Conference, certainly in the lead seat for the Supporter Shield as the top team overall in the league. New York Red Bull really fighting for their position overall in the playoffs, and this is last year's Supporter Shield winner. But to get into this one, we had Bradley Wright Phillips opening the match in the first minute with a goal, and then nothing happened up until after halftime. In the second half, Bradley Wright Phillips again on a penalty kick, and Bradley Wright Phillips closing out the hat trick in the 56th minute to make it 3-0. Clint Dempsey adding one in the 62nd minute to make it 3-1, and then Tim Cahill's coming on to score a goal in the 65th minute and close out the scoring to make it 4-1 overall. Statistical information in this one, the Red Bull held the possession 52-48. Shots on this one were 15-10 in favor of Red Bull, and shots on target 8-6 in favor of the Red Bull. Gentlemen, as a personal side note, I drove down to Philadelphia this Saturday to work a race for 22Q, and drove by Red Bull Arena about 30 minutes before kickoff and begged my wife to go to this match, and she refused, so I didn't get a chance to go see this match, and I tried as hard as I could. So as we stand, guys, the one thing I want to point out on the heels of this match, we saw 3 more goals from Bradley Wright Phillips. Rumor is that he is going to be heading back to England, possibly for a championship side at the end of the season. But he's currently on 24 goals. He is 3 goals away from setting the record for most goals in a season in MLS, set by Chris Wondolowski a couple of years ago. He has scored half of the goals for the New York Red Bull. Guys, I mean, I don't know if Ben, I'm sure you haven't had much MLS coverage over there, so I don't think you've gotten to see Bradley Wright Phillips. But Rob, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch at all. What are your thoughts on Bradley Wright Phillips? Do you think this is a guy that might succeed over in either a championship side or even in a Premier League side?
Yeah, I think given his performances that he's been doing in the MLS, especially for the Red Bulls and scoring as much goals, I think he could impress in the championship or even the Premier League for that matter. Mm-hmm. But then again, you're comparing those leagues to the MLS, which for me, I don't think it's a fair comparison, in truth.
Right.
If you want to argue with me on that?
No. It's tough to compare the two leagues, whether it be style of play or quality of players, And this is something that my brother, I believe it was my brother, wanted me to ask Ray Hudson when he came on the show about the quality of growth in the MLS. I think if New York or the MLS loses this player back over to England, which he is English, I believe he was born in England. But if they lose
he was in the centre of London.
That's it. So I think it hurts the league. This is the kind of guy they want to hold on to. This is the kind of young player who can bring some excitement to the league, and it would be a shame for them to lose a player of his stature. He's only 29 years old, so he's certainly in the prime of his career at the moment. watching him live a couple of weeks ago, this is the one thing that I was impressed by with Bradley Wright Phillips is his physical speed. It is so deceptive on the pitch, watching on TV. But let this kid loose on the pitch, and he was the guy that was really making positive runs. I went to see the Sporting KC match against New York, and even though KC held the majority of the possession and the majority of the play, when New York had their chance to counter, he was the one that was making the positive runs and really putting a lot of pressure on the back four of Sporting KC. And I think this guy is an exciting player. He's certainly one that you'd want to watch. In my opinion, one of the most exciting players in the league. So to me, the MLS has to find a way to keep this kid in the league, and preferably in New York, where you've got all the cameras and you've got the bright lights, and let this kid succeed here. I mean, you've got NYCFC coming in now with Frank Lampard, who we talked about earlier. You've got Kaká coming into Orlando FC that's going to be coming into the league next year. So we're going to have some star power coming in. I think this league is going to improve starting next year with the addition of these two teams. And I think a guy like Bradley Wright Phillips could really shine in this situation. Also, I think with the addition of those two teams and the quality of players they're all talking about bringing in and signing, you might see an MLS league that I would say would rival possibly a championship in terms of quality. Ben, I don't know if you've had any chance to watch any of the MLS matches at all, but would you argue with me on that statement?
What, of the comparison of the competition, you mean?
Yeah, the comparison of the competition, the quality of the competition between MLS and, let's say, the championship side. I don't think MLS compares to the Premier League, but I think it's fair to say that with the influx of the teams that are coming in and the players that these teams are bringing in, that you're going to see a league that would rival in quality the championship at least. What are your thoughts?
I think it depends. Like, I mean, like if you'd have asked me 2 seasons ago, like I would have said definitely, which is ironic because the MLS has come forward. But the irony of it is in the last 2 seasons, so has the championship. The championship's got harder and harder, and I would say there's probably 10 teams in the championship that would probably have been in the Premier League 5 years ago. It's just how tough it is now. So I mean, I reckon possibly a couple of the teams from the MLS would, could make some noise in the championship. I definitely think they could stay in the championship, but I think like as a division, like championship versus MLS is championship probably slightly, but that's only because like the championship is just so strong now. I mean, like I said, there's just so many good teams in the championship now, and it's all the fringe Premier League players are coming to the top end championship clubs, and yeah, there's probably 10 real good clubs in the championship now. Right,
I would agree. Now, I'm curious because we're going to see some quality come in. Like I'd said, Frank Lampard, I believe, if I'm correct, I mean, I don't know why I'm spacing on the other signing that they had over at New York City FC. I thought it was Xavi, but for some reason I feel like I'm wrong, and I can't remember. There was one other big signing, and it's just not clicking in my head right now. Rob, I'd like your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on, the MLS compared to the championship? Do you think it's something that they would be on level terms? Do you think one would be markedly better than the other? What are your thoughts?
I think also you can't really compare a first division. You can't compare a first division to a second division tier because, in a way, they're both different clubs, different history, and I assume the championship has, in fact, more history than the MLS, which was founded some 18 odd years ago. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, you can't compare both of them just because of the history and the clubs that have so much of the history. But then again, you could compare them considering the talent and I guess the quality of both leagues.
Well, I actually think you're both right. And one other reason I want to add to the fact that I think you guys are both right is there's the relegation promotion factor. You've got to remember, let's look at the championship right now. The championship has 3 teams in it that were in the Premier League last year. That fact will always remain. And those are decent sides. I mean, let's look at it a different way. Right now, we have. Let me just go back and check my numbers here before I say it. Okay, we have the LA Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders leading the way in MLS. They're both on 54 points. Let's take those two teams. You've got former EPL players on them, and Landon Donovan. You've got Roy Keane in LA. You've got Clint Dempsey in Seattle. Let's take those two teams and put them into the championship. Where do you think they finish? Do you think they can finish mid-table? Do you think they can actually make a run at winning the championship? Do you think they're in the promotion argument? Ben, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts? Do you think the top team in MLS is in the argument for promotion, or do you think they're mid-table, or do you think they're getting relegated?
I must admit, I don't know as much about the MLS as you guys do, but I think really now, like the top teams in the championship, this is what I said. I think now it's so tough now. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the top team in the MLS would be in the mix for the fight for the playoffs. Like I would put them in the top 10, which is no disrespect to them, but like there's a lot of top 10 teams now that were in the Premier League 1 or 2 seasons ago. But I think that's where I'd stick them. I think they're better than mid-table, but I don't think they're good enough to break those 2 spots. Because I mean, just how it is now, it's just there's a lot of teams just throwing money all over the place to try and come back up. Like QPR spent like 50 or 60 million when they came down. So you just this kind of thing is just silly. I mean, Norwich look really, really good this year. I mean, just to give you an idea, this Leicester team that we're seeing doing well in the Premier League, they couldn't get out of the Championship for 2 years, and they haven't really added that many faces. So that just gives you an idea of how hard the Championship really is.
Sure. Rob, what are your thoughts on that? Taking a team like the Sounders or the Galaxy leading the way in MLS, where do you think they sit in the Championship?
To be honest, I think I'm going to side with Ben as well and do the reverse of what he's saying when I say I haven't been watching much of the Championship. But then again, the Championship, I think you can't really predict who can be top 2, top 3, top 4, top 5. It's unpredictable every year, I must admit. So in terms of MLS, I think we can probably predict that as well. We can predict it as well. Some certain clubs performing well because of the players and stuff like that. But I think if you're going to compare clubs playing in the Championship, you would have to. This is a whole different style, whole different level. From an American perspective to an English perspective, it'd be more intense and that type of stuff. But I think they could probably finish mid-table. I wouldn't be surprised if MLS club does in fact win the Championship and gets promoted to the Premier League. But right. I don't really see it in all truth.
See, for me, I would go on the fact that these clubs, the 2 clubs that we're talking about right now, the Galaxy and the Sounders, do have players with experience in the in Europe. Okay, and because of that, I think I would sit probably along the lines of where Ben was saying that one of these 2 teams would be competing for a playoff position. I don't think they would actually hold on to one of the 2 automatic spots. But I don't think they can be overlooked either. I don't think they would just be a walk in the park for any of these teams. I also likewise, I think if you take one of these teams like the Galaxy or the Seattle Sounders, I think they're a bottom table team if you put them in the Premier League. Maybe like a Stoke. And just I'm going to call up the EPL standings right now as we're talking about this, because I think there is potential. I'm not saying that they would do it, but I think there's potential for them to stay promoted if they actually made it up into that league. These are 2 teams with 2 very, very good coaches. Seattle Sounders have Ziggy Schmidt. The LA Galaxy has former U.S. national team coach, and his name is just escaping me now, but I can picture him. It was before before Bob Bradley.
Bruce Arena?
Thank you, Bruce Arena. So the 2 quality coaches, with quality sides, and I think that just looking at looking at the bottom of the table right now in the BPL, we have Newcastle, Burnley, QPR, Sunderland, and West Brom. Those are your bottom 5. West Brom, obviously, they're playing, decently. 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses. Sunderland, though, is having a heck of a time. Haven't won a match yet this season. But I wouldn't put it past a good Seattle Sounders side playing well to beat a Burnley or beat a QPR. Newcastle, I think, is an anomaly that we're going to talk to Ray Hudson in a little while. I don't know what's going on there with them, but I don't think that they would be out of their realm to beat teams like that on any given day. Okay, now we play Seattle Sounders Chelsea. Yeah, that's not going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be 10-1, but I don't think it'll be 1-0 either. It's probably going to be somewhere in the 5 to 6-1 range, I think, honestly. But I think the MLS has come a long way in recent years. Their quality is getting a little better. They're bringing in good players, and now they're expanding, and they're expanding with quality players as well. So I think moving forward, I think you're going to see an MLS side that's going to be competitive overall. Now, going back to the CONCACAF Champions League, this is a tournament that's historically won by a Mexican side, and I don't see any reason not to believe that this year. But I think the gap is closing, and I think you could easily see a New York Red Bull side or a Portland side that is a decent side to come out and possibly upset one of these teams. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. So, guys, let me give you the tables for MLS. Let me give you a match of the week for MLS, and then, Ben, I'm going to throw it over to you for the banter. And then we'll kind of wrap up our discussions and decide if we're going to jump into City with anticipation of Ray Hudson. So in the top 5 or in the Eastern Conference in MLS, we have DC United leading the way with 48 points. Sporting KC getting off their losing ways on 45 points. New England Revolution on 42. The previously discussed Red Bull on 41 points, currently in 4th, and the Columbus Crew holding that last playoff spot on 40 points. Philadelphia Union losing an opportunity this week by drawing at home to Houston. They're just outside the playoff position on 38 points. Toronto FC on 37. The Houston Dynamo on 33 points. The Chicago Fire on 31 points. And the Montreal Impact done and dusted in 10th place on 24 points. Moving into the Western Conference, we have 2 teams sitting atop the league with the LA Galaxy on 54 and the Seattle Sounders on 54 points. The difference there, goal differential, 28-11 in favor of the Galaxy, but the Sounders do have a game in advantage on LA. 3rd place, Real Salt Lake, 49 points. FC Dallas in 4th on 45. The last playoff spot currently being held by the Portland Timbers on 39 points. The Vancouver Whitecaps, losers of 4 of their last 6, have fallen out of that playoff position. They're currently on 37 points. The Colorado Rapid, losers of 5 of their last 6, they're on 31 points. San Jose Earthquakes on 28 points, and the Chivas out of LA. Chivas is currently losing a ton of games. They've only won 6 matches out of 29, lost 17. Currently losers of 6 in a row at least, and they're on 24 points. Again, done and dusted for the league for the season. So looking at this week's schedule coming up, we have FC Dallas, Seattle Sounders. That one's an interesting one of 2 top teams in the Western Conference. Sporting KC New England Revolution on Friday, which is 2 top teams in the Eastern Conference. Guys, I'm going to lean towards more of the matches that are going to have playoff implications. So with that in mind, I'm going to look at, let's see here quickly, just running through these 2 matches. I think I'm probably going to take the Toronto FC Portland Timbers match as the match to watch. That is going to be a 1 o'clock Eastern start time on Saturday. Toronto currently sitting on 37 points. They are 3 points out of the playoff spot, the last playoff spot being held by the Columbus Crew in the Eastern Conference. And the Portland Timbers are currently 2 points into that last playoff spot ahead of the previously beaten Vancouver Whitecaps. So we've also got a little bit of star power in this matchup here. The Portland Timbers, Darlington Nagbe is really a big name for them. He's actually the most fouled player in MLS this season. and with good reason. Very, very dangerous player. Toronto FC, we've talked about their troubles and tribulations over the past, I'd say, 4 weeks. Still being led by Michael Bradley. Amazingly, with all the issues they've had in on the season, they're still in a position to pick that up. So, going to be an interesting side. I think if any of these teams lose this match, Portland would be in trouble. If Toronto loses this match, I think they're done, and they're not going to make it up with 5 games to go. So that would be my must-watch. If I had to give you guys a prediction on this match, Toronto is in such disarray. I'm going to take the Portland Timbers in this one. I'm going to take the Timber to win this one 3-1 and strengthen their position over the Whitecaps. I'm sorry to say that, Troy. But Portland, I think, is playing very, very well right now. Just looking at their current run of form, they are currently they've only lost 1 match in their last 6. So, and that loss was to the Seattle Sounders. So that's gonna do it for us for MLS coverage, guys. Ben, I'm gonna throw it over to you. You've got anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to kill for Ray Hudson. But let's do it with the Blackburn banter. Let's talk about Blackburn. What's going on this week for them?
Yeah, we've had 2 games. Obviously, the Championships is a 46-game season, so it tends to have about 1 extra game a month, sometimes 2. But anyway, yeah, we played 2 games. Firstly, it was home to Derby. For me, Derby's definitely top 3 team in the Championship. For me, I think personally they'll go up automatically. They looked really good last year. They lost out 1-0 at Wembley to a QPR team, and in fairness, they were better than that QPR team on the day, and it was just QPR took their chance. So for me, knew this was going to be a tough game. Ended up 3-2 to Derby. The goal that they scored actually was a foul in the build-up. Terrible defending afterwards, but was a foul in the build-up, so I think it was a bit unfair. But really gave them a good game, and it was really close. And I did actually say to Rob at the time after the game, I couldn't, apart from that one bit of bad defending, I couldn't be that disappointed because their heads never dropped, and the Blackburn teams of old would have. But then we played Fulham away on Saturday, just gone. Would have been another tough game. Fulham, although they had a bad start to the season, still a very good team. And I probably would have took a draw at the beginning of the game, but Blackburn ended up winning 1-0. It was a really professional display from Blackburn, especially after the midweek loss. Attacked and defended very well. And Gary Burrier, the manager, brought a few players in at the end of the window, a goalkeeper, a defender, and a central midfielder. And he actually, due to an injury to Paul Robinson, started the goalkeeper that was brought in, and also the big centre-back from Everton that I talked about. He started him as well, and they had really, really good games, and we looked a lot tighter at the back. Jordan Rhodes, surprisingly, with a goal for Blackburn. Great finish, still scoring goals for fun. And ironically, he still only scored 1 more than our other striker, Rudy Justad. So we're scoring a lot of goals. If we can tighten up at the back, I'm sure we'll be fine. We've had a tough 8 games. I think 6 of those games have been against top 6 sides, so not too bad. And it's 2 points outside of 4 points from automatic. And the next game on Saturday is another tough game. We're at home to Watford, who are 3rd at the moment, and I would expect them to be around about the top 6 as well. Like I said earlier when we was talking about the MLS, this championship is so tough now. There literally is 10 teams, and any of those 10 teams could go up, really. But I do think that if we can weather the storm of these tough games and we can get through them there or thereabouts around the promotion zone, then I really think as the games, quote unquote, become a bit easier, we'll really pick up some points. I'm actually going to see the Ipswich game. It's 2 weeks Saturday, I believe. So I'm going to go and see that for my birthday because it's my 30th birthday on the 6th. So I'm going to go up and try and cheer them on. But yeah, speaking as a Blackburn fan, this is the most positive I've been in 3 years. For anyone that doesn't really know much about Blackburn, since we've been relegated, it's been complete disarray. We was taken over by an Indian company, and basically we was just put in a load of debt. A lot of our best players left. We went through 3 or 4 managers. Crowds went down. season ticket prices went down to ridiculous prices to try and bring him back, and it was really, really bad. But one of the coaches took over, and now the players are playing for him. The fans are back behind the team. We're playing well. We've, for me, got the best strike force in the whole of the championship. Our midfield is top quality, top 3 or 4 midfield as well for me. And if we can get the defence right, then I really do think we'll be in the top 6 this year. And I think there's going to be some stuff to cheer about this year for Blackburn. And I don't care how we get back up. I want to get back to the Premier League.
You know, I'm just looking over the standings in the championship. Cardiff. Who did we relegate? Cardiff, Fulham, and Wigan. Okay.
Norwich.
Oh, was it Norwich? Okay. Oh, that's right. Wigan was 2 years ago. And of those teams, only Norwich is really in the discussion to regain promotion. They're currently in second place. Blackburn currently sit 2 points out of the playoff position. They're currently on 13 points in 10th place, 2 points behind Sheffield and Middlesbrough. The other thing that I wanted to point out was, where was it here, Ben? I was looking at it. You were discussing, it was Watford.
Yeah.
Discussing Watford. Watford has had a little bit of a stumble on form here as of late. In their last 3 matches, they're just 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Their loss coming to Charlton on the road. Charlton here is in 8th place currently, and their draw was against Bournemouth, and Bournemouth is in 15th place. So a little bit of a stumble.
Sorry to interrupt you. This Charlton team is completely come out of nothing really. Like I would not expect Charlton or Sheffield Wednesday to be there. They don't even have the teams on paper. For me, these kind of teams tend to fall away. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of games to play in the championship. I mean, you know, fair play, they're there on merit. But like I said, this like on paper, this Charlton and Sheffield Wednesday team, even that Ipswich team should be 5-6 places lower at least.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, looking at these teams ahead of Blackburn, I didn't look up their upcoming schedule. Ben, do you have anything going on for them for the upcoming schedule?
I can tell you the upcoming fixtures. Yeah. Just give me a second. Yeah, this weekend there's quite obviously the Blackburn-Watford game that we talked. It's Blackpool versus Norwich, Bolton versus Derby, Charlton versus Middlesbrough. They're the big games really. Nottingham Forest at home to Brighton, which I'd expect to win there, and Wolves are away at Reading.
Okay. How about do you have a way to look up the Blackburn's upcoming fixtures over the next, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks? I mean, clearly, we're like we keep discussing, we're very early into the season here on all of these sides, but it's kind of nice to look and see if they can position themselves. Like, for example, Fulham right now is sitting only on 1 point after 8 matches. The odds of them catching a Sheffield Wednesday, who are 14 points ahead of them at this point, are very, very slim unless they have some kind of crazy turnaround. So it's nice to see if maybe Blackburn can, get fatter on the on some of the lower ranked teams and possibly put themselves in a position to be fighting for that at least that playoff position, if not better, the entire season.
It's home to Watford next Saturday. Then it's away to Rotherham. Then home to Huddersfield, and away to Ipswich. I mean, I do think if we're gonna make this playoffs in like what I said, in a very, very strong championship, then I think we've got to be beating the teams at home around us. But I mean, if we can beat Watford, then we should beat Rotherham away. We should beat Huddersfield at home, and Ipswich away. You'd be happy with a point. But realistically, if we could get like 8 or 9 points out of those games, I think it'd be a good return.
Yeah, I agree. If in those 4 matches, they should definitely beat Rotherham and Huddersfield. No doubt, Huddersfield currently sitting 22nd, about to be relegated to the second division according to these standings. Again, like we said, it's early. And Rotherham only 2 wins, 2 losses. 2 wins, 2 draws, 4 losses. They've only scored 6 goals in 8 matches. So that's a side that I think, like you said, should certainly be had, and a team like Blackburn should certainly take advantage of them. looking at their current run of form, Blackburn scored 14 goals but given up 14. Ben, to me, a team that's given up 14 goals in 8 matches that's a significant number. What do they need to do to shore up that defense and keep the back tight?
I think it was no one was hiding away from the fact that we needed defenders. He fixed every part of the team for me, apart from the defenders. Really, we went out and got a right back, which Baptiste, who is a centre back, right back, but still a lot better options than what we had. But I think for the most part, it was a bit of stubbornness on Gary Bowes' half, and he wanted to stick with a defender that wasn't doing so good. But he brought another centre back in to compete, and I just hope that he has the stomach to do it, because he's made a few mistakes that have cost us this year in some games where, for me, it was solely his fault, really. I mean, our left back's been injured pretty much since the beginning of the season. Second choice left back's in, but for me, it's been mostly about the centre back position. But he's brought in cover there, and for me, a guy that should start every week, and a goalkeeper that's I would start over Paul Robinson at the moment. I think he looks like he wants to prove himself, a young lad. So I think you'll see it tighten up, and I think he needs to be prepared to change things to tighten out. But yeah, we did that in a box-to-box midfielder. So hopefully these things, for the next 8 games at least, we should keep the goals coming in against us a bit down, because we know, like we showed against Fulham, if we can keep the goals down low, then we've definitely got goals in us.
Yep. So, anything else you want to cover with Blackburn with us for the week?
Not really. I think like I said, the next kind of up until Christmas, I think our run-in's not as bad as it has been, and the next 8 games, are a lot easier than the previous 8 for me, and I think coming up to Christmas, if we can be around that playoff zone, then I definitely think that the experience they gained from last year and the kind of feel-good factor that's around Blackburn now. Like I said, both the strikers have chipped in with 4 each. Our left winger's got 3. We're scoring a lot of goals, and hopefully the team can build on the clean sheet. And you like to score goals, but I'm kind of happier in that respect to win 1-0, just because the strikers are still going to carry on scoring, but it's the confidence that the defenders need. They're not the only ones that need good things to go for them every now and again, just so they can keep that going into the next game and put a run together, because that seems to have been our weakness in the last few years, is just not being able to put a run of results together. It seems to be a bit hit and miss, so that's what we need to do. We need to have a few 6 games run where we can put a few wins and draws together and go on a few little runs and take us through to Christmas.
No, I hear you. Rob, you have any questions for Ben on Blackburn before we move forward?
No, I don't really. I was going to talk about Capital One Cup. I was thinking, no, they got eliminated, so
they did.
I figured, yeah.
All right, well, let's.
I think relating to the championship, what do you think of Liverpool against Middlesbrough tomorrow at Anfield?
This Middlesbrough team's it's a lot better than it has been in past seasons. They've gone out and they've signed some players in the window. I think they'll be in and around the playoffs, Middlesbrough, this year, definitely. But I don't know what kind of team Liverpool are going to put out at Anfield. And for that, I don't know what kind of team Middlesbrough are going to put out, because I'm sure that they know they're going to be in and around the playoffs. So I think you could see B teams from both, really. But I would still go with Liverpool regardless. I think Liverpool will have enough, but I don't think they'll turn Middlesbrough over too badly. Probably 2-0 Middlesbrough, I'd say. 2-0 Liverpool, sorry.
All right, that's fine.
All right, so guys, I think we're probably about 10 minutes away from Ray Hudson at this point. So let's go over and do SirBob's ManCity Corner. For some reason, SirBob is missing in action tonight. I did tweet at him earlier, and he is nowhere to be found. So let's still honor his corner and take care of it for him. So this week we wanted to talk about the perfect timing. Let me just hit this here quickly. Let's see.
There you go.
I'm going to add it to the group call, and hopefully we're connected. But joining us live on Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio, someone I admire greatly and certainly makes football exciting. Ray Hudson. Ray, Joe Usello from Low Limit Football. How are you tonight?
Hey, wonderful, Joe. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, and even better now that you've called in. First, before I get started, I'm going to introduce you to my co-hosts. The first I'm going to introduce you is a young man that you've actually gone back and forth with on Twitter before. It's Roberto Rojas. Rob, say hi to Ray Hudson.
Hi, Ray Hudson.
Hey, Rob. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to finally
All
have you
right,
on the show.
super.
Good. And,
All right.
And my other co-host is currently over in England and probably sleepy-eyed at this point is Ben the Machine. Ben, why don't you say hi to Ray Hudson?
Hey, Race. It's nice to have you on the show.
All right. Thanks. Nice to be here, Ben.
So first things first, Ray, how did things go with the locker room tonight? I saw you on the screen there sitting next to George DiMatteis. How did the show go?
Yeah, it's always sparky, always interesting, and it's the cast changes from week to week, so it's always difficult. It's like jumping horses sometimes, and but it's all about the game, and the impassioned people, and Kay tries. Poor Kay Murray's like Ben-Hur behind the chariot, trying to keep all the horses in line, and but she does a good job. It was fun. Well, lots to talk about this week as well, of course, with the incredible goal glut in Spain from Real Madrid and Barcelona, of course, all the activities in some of the wonderful performances from the smaller teams in the EPL, which what I thought got a little bit went a little under the radar this week. Everybody talking about the big teams, but the lesser lights. We got to remember, guys. That it's not all about the superpowers and the big money. The more modest teams, the lesser lights, if you like, have got a lot to be proud of, and I always think that they don't get the recognition they deserve. The likes of the Leicesters in the West Hams and people like that. But it's showbiz, I guess. Everybody wants to talk about the big glamour boys, and that's fine. But sometimes, and I'll always go with the underdogs anyway. So I like to see the underdogs bite back.
Bite back, and we've seen that happen plenty of times, especially in this unpredictable season that we've seen across Europe, not even just in England, but all over.
Yeah.
I think the first one that I want to ask you, while we're jumping right into it, is Newcastle.
Jeez.
I know. The first time you started following me on Twitter was I had tweeted to you that the only good thing coming out of Newcastle these days was the ale. And and I think we're back at it today. There's been a lot of controversy about Alan Pardew and his situation there. What are your thoughts on the way Newcastle has gone about so far this season? Do you think they can turn it around?
It's very, very debatable. I mean, the city is in unison against the coach by and large. There's a massive movement against Alan Pardew for the time that he's been there, and the changes. I mean, when he was brought in, did a spectacular job, but it hasn't been a consistent progression. And under this ownership, there seems to be always Newcastle United's a shark with the barrels tied into them. Remember that movie when they shot the shark to slow it down with all those barrels? That's what Newcastle United is. It seems to. I mean, it's the third most attended stadium in all of English football. That in itself is astonishing. It's easy to support Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, all these types of teams, the Arsenal, but Newcastle United, are you kidding me? And we're the third highest attended team in the country. It's pretty amazing. It either shows that the Geordies are truly the stupidest breed of people on God's earth, or we just love our football more than anybody, and I think it's the second one. But it's going to take a lot to turn this around, and it doesn't look as if they've got the right guy. I think he'll be fired sooner than later, but who knows with this owner, and we're sick of it, really. The people are up in arms against it. All my friends and the people that I communicate with back home, they've just had enough. It just, how much can you swallow? How much crap can you take? And it's disheartening. But they fought back well, got the point, but it's not looking good. We're still propping up the entire division. We deserve better. Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's a pretty well-known fact that Pardue, if not already being sacked, will be sacked soon. Do you anticipate anyone that might take his place? Anyone you'd want to see take his place, or going back even into your history, would you want to take his place?
Oh God, no! I'm done with coaching. I wouldn't think that I'd get anywhere close to an invite like that. But that's all right. The Steve Bruce is probably the one that I would imagine would be on the favourites list. At top of that tree, but it's a poison chalice. I mean, it's such a massive club. I remember talking to Graham Souness about it when I was at DC United, and Graham was saying that that's the next big job coming. Well, anybody that seems to take it on has a very difficult time dealing with it. I give credit to the owner for sticking with Alan for as long as he did, and that's what he's done, and I think that's applaudable. He hasn't chopped and changed like so many other clubs have, but this whole process of the management. Remember when Alan, had that terrible incident when he hit the official? Was it the official? I can't even remember now. If it was the manager of the other team. But I mean, that was a shocking sense of behaviour, and you get through that, and it goes on, and the procedure just seems to be chasing its tail around. Even though Ashley has backed him up well and given the money to spend as well, but the whole tenure of this ownership, going back to the Dennis Wise thing, is just it's a joke. It's just been ridiculous beyond belief, and the town are out in full. They want change. They just want a big change, but it's not going to happen. That's the worst part of it. It's not going to happen. This owner's not going to go anywhere. So who's going to come in? Maybe Stevie Bruce has got it in him. The Geordie man, of course, and tremendous player for Man U, knows the game inside out, upside down, sideways. But the team needs somebody that they can. The town needs somebody that they can get behind now. I think Alan's days seem to be, sadly coming to an end, because I thought he was a good man coming in, and it hasn't proved to be a good ending to him.
Sure, Ben. I know Ben has the next question. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Ray. I can kind of feel your pain, because I'm a Blackburn Rovers fan, and a similar kind of thing. Yeah, a similar thing happened to us with obviously the Venkis came in as the owners, and the Steve Keane fiasco, Blackburn Rovers. So you're not alone in feeling that you feel trapped, and it's so frustrating. But my question to you, what are your expectations for Newcastle this year? Do you think they can stay up? What's your feeling about it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm very pessimistic, I've got to tell you. I was at the first game as well against Manchester City, and they played some good football, and you thought, hell, we've got a real chance of winning this. They could have won that game. And isn't it just strange that this game of ours, that could have turned so much in our favour as Newcastle United, but it didn't. And they've been reeling and rocking ever since, and it's been a steady spiral down. The substitution, the last time when Cisse got in, it was amazing that it took that long. It was a last ditch effort for him to turn it around. I really don't have a lot of optimism for us staying up. Given the games that we've had, the games that we should have been able to at least be in much more of a contentious position, I've not seen it. To be honest with you, I don't have great hope at all. And if I was a betting man, which I am, I would probably take Newcastle to take the drop, because some of the teams that come up are playing much more connected football, and there's a much more of a spirit about them. It's either that, then, or they make the change. You know, they make the change at the top to. And it's sad, we all know we don't like people losing their jobs, but there comes a time where Ashley's going to have to decide, and it's probably going to be in the next 2 to 3 weeks, if he's going to stick around or if the axe is going to fall. And I think it'll fall.
Okay, thank you. I believe Rob's got a question for you. I'll pass you on to my co-commentator, Rob.
All right. Hi, Ray. Obviously, we talked back and forth. Obviously, we've talked back and forth through Twitter, and if it wasn't for that, I probably would have never been on the show in the first place as a co-host. So the first question I have is, I heard you like, a specific type of football from South America.
Yeah.
What made you fall in love with, obviously, South American football, and what's your opinion on it, especially like such a tournament like the Copa Libertadores, who haven't had much recognition around the world, like, say, the Champions League, for example. And obviously, if you look at a tournament like this, it has a lot of passion and everything. So what do you think of this style of football? And, of course, this tournament to follow up.
Well, it's what's taken, England by storm as well now, isn't it? You know, the Latin flavour, the Latin space of football. It's something that's been nicely introduced into the hurly-burly of English football, and I think everybody recognises it now. You look at the effect that the Spaniards have had on Chelsea just alone as an example. And we know it's all argumentative, Rob. I'm not saying that the Latin football's the be-all and end-all. You see the way the Germans play their game, and it is totally a European style. But I still believe it's got that mix of the Guardiola spirit in them, and I think that Latin flavour is starting to work its way into, even the German team, which is, really a statement in itself. But I've always favoured and loved the Latin football ever since I was a kid. I was baptised by Brazil in 1970, of course, and anybody that was a kid in them days, you were just intoxicated by that type of football. But it goes back even before then for me, in 1966, when I was watching the World Cup in the living room in the council flat with me father on a black and white television, watching Garrincha line up for a free kick. And I said to me, Dad, what's he doing? He's not going to shoot from that distance, Dad, is he? And he says, Raymond, this is like a penalty kick for the Brazilians. And it was at Goodison Park, I'll never forget it, and Garrincha sank this one in with what they called a banana kick in them days, with the curve and swerve on it. And ever since then, I was just bitten. Loved the way they played, and as I've grown into a man, elderly man now, I've just always gravitated towards the South American football, whether it be Argentina or Brazil with the Giants, but Uruguay, Colombia in this last World Cup, everybody was surprised about them, and it didn't surprise me. It's just my type of football. It's touch, it's skill at the purest form, and it's for me, the essence of the game. It's not about that spirit and passion of the raw, up and at them type of football. It's much more of a syncopated rhythm type of football, and much more expressionistic, if you like. It's difficult to put into an explanation verbally, but you guys know what I mean, the listeners know what I mean. There's something about the way they play. Nobody hits a ball like a Brazilian. No, I don't know why, but there's something about the way they strike the ball that is entirely different. Now, I think it started to level out a little bit, guys, and that big dimension isn't quite as the division isn't quite as big as it used to be, because the world has shrunk, and that talent of South America has been dispersed and has had wonderful effects all around the world. But for me, Copa Libertadores is still my favourite tournament of all, Rob. Above the Champions League, above the World Cup, above everything. That tournament for me is the smell of football, and the stink of skill. It is everything. It's played in unfashionable, rickshaw type of stadiums. It's played in front of people that only have to pay a couple of dollars to get into the stadium. It's not your shrimp cocktail crowd. Some of the pitches aren't the best, but you just look at the skill and the pace that they play the game with, and how combative it is back and forward. It's open, and it absolutely enthralls me. That's my own personal opinion, though. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's hugely overlooked, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Growing up in a South American family, I'm actually Paraguayan American, and watching the Copa Libertadores is a tradition because you have family, friends that all watch this tournament in our community, and it's regarded huge. Just one more follow-up. Obviously, you seem to idolize Messi a lot on your commentary, on your comments on Twitter and stuff like that.
Who wouldn't?
I guess. I'm sorry?
Who wouldn't?
Exactly. I just have one easy question. How can you, I guess, in your opinion, compare him to Maradona?
Rob, I'm sorry, we broke up a little bit. Who was the person? Who was the player you're talking about?
Messi.
Oh, okay, Leo. Okay.
Yeah. How do you compare him to Maradona? What do you think are the differences between them and the similarities? And if so, who do you think is better?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's picking between Michelangelo and Bernini, isn't it? It is so difficult to split the two in a lot of ways. But for me personally, Maradona is the greatest player that I have ever seen. Messi's within his shadow, and that's no devaluing of Leo. Messi himself has said the same thing, and understandably so. What he meant to the country and how he did it in a way amongst the team, not just as on the national level of Argentina and winning a World Cup, where he was literally the beyond a standout player. Although he had good help, we all know that it's not a one-man team. But if there has ever been a one-man team, it's probably the team of Argentina's Diego Maradona, more so than Pelé, who had the likes of Jairzinho and Tostão and Gerson and on and on. With all due respect to Maradona's teammates, Caniggia and the like, they were all wonderful footballers, but Maradona pulled that team along by the jock straps, and there was nobody that ever did that. He went to Napoli and did the same thing. He went to the most unfashionable types of footballing clubs at that time and resurrected them from nothing to champions. Amazingly so. And I don't buy into any of the claptrap about his personal life. That's of a different topic altogether. In terms of footballing, pure and simple, Diego was as magnificent as Messi's genius is with the ball. I still think he's a step or two behind Maradona, who we'll never see the likes of again.
Ray, I have a follow-up to that with the Maradona-Messi comparison. If Messi would have won the World Cup this summer, would the opinion change at all?
No, not for me. And again, you guys, everybody knows how much I love pure football, and that's what it is. It's not Barcelona. People think I'm a Barcelona fanboy or a Messi fan. It's not. If it was Real Madrid playing that same type of football, which they did last year in a different type of blender, I'm a huge fan. I'm the biggest fan of that. As a great man once said, I'm just a beggar for football. I'm a beggar. I want that pass. I want that goal. I want that demonstration. And I don't care who plays it. I don't care if it's Manchester United or if it's Juventus. That part of it is what turns me on. And nobody has exhibited that high quality, high octane football and that pure poetry of the expressive nature of football more so than Barcelona in their glory years, led by Messi. Now, that ain't my fault. I'm just a commentator, and I've been blessed that I have been able to colour the canvas of people that are watching on the television by watching these incredibly gifted footballing teams and footballers. Messi is the player of his generation. It's inarguable. You can put up people that will give him a run for his money, statistically perhaps, but on the aesthetic of the game, the true aesthetic of a footballer, in terms of passing, in terms of dribbling, in terms of goals scored, assists, the manner in which he takes players and teams out individually, it's Messi at the pinnacle for me. And at the top of that pyramid is Leo. The rest of them are glittering footballers as well. And above him is Maradona. And if he had won the World Cup with his teammates, I think I really honestly don't think that my opinion would have changed. It's still El Diego for me. He's still the all-time epitome of the purest footballer that we'll ever see. And again, guys, this is going back to a player whose first love was Pelé. But then when I've seen Maradona, I never thought I'd see one like Pelé. But for me, Diego eclipses even Pelé.
All right. Thanks for the comments, Ray. I'll pass it up to Ben.
Yeah, hi, Ray. While we're talking a little bit about world football, can I ask you a tough question, stuff that we talk about quite a lot on this show, but which league, in your opinion, league or country, whichever way you want to do it, do you think is the most exciting and full of depth?
I think the most enthralling of all is the English Premier League, for a variety of reasons. That's certainly no reflection on the English footballer or the English national team. Again, Ben, that's on a different topic and different planet altogether. But I think the wealth and the marketing of the EPL has, given occasion to get the best talent in the world to come and play in the league. The thing that the EPL has above all others, inarguably, and Italy used to give it a real good challenge, I believe, is the crowds. It's the greatest supporters, the greatest fans in the world. Even with the South American clubs, the passionate support that they enjoy, even my Boca Juniors. But in a league, I think the EPL really has a fair claim to being the most. You could argue it's the best league in the world. When you see some of the results that happened at the weekend, there's a statement in and of itself. Some of the big teams are losing, and right throughout the league, it seems a very strong league. So that part of it, I think, the EPL is probably again, it's all arguable. I don't particularly like the game from England, but I much prefer the Spanish football, the league itself, and the Italian league. To be honest, and I'm not just saying that because they're on our channel at beIN Sport. It's just my own personal opinion. I can't give anything else other than that. It's the mix of the English game, though, now, I think, is what's so wonderful. And it's taken a long time, but nobody can ever argue that even in the George Best days, when I was a kid, that the English league was the best in the world. It was always ultra competitive, and even back in the days when English footballing clubs ruled Europe, in 76, was it 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, all European Champions League victories. I remember that's what I used to say to Gerd Muller every time Gerd would come into our locker room at Lockhart Stadium. 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. Those great Liverpool days and Nottingham Forest and Villa, and wonderful. And they were substantially English or British players in those teams, but nobody ever thought or regarded it as the best league in the world, when it probably was at that time. But now, when it's projected as the best league in the world, I think it's a lot to do with the salesmanship, the atmospheres, but there's a lot to back it up as the most competitive of leagues from top to bottom all the way through. And that's not to say that La Liga, the Premier of Spain, isn't that way, because we see a team like Villarreal, for example, coming up out of the second division and doing wonderfully, and other teams as well, on and on. No question about it. It's, again, it's a big, expansive question to answer, because there's so many caveats to it, guys. But for me personally, I would always I enjoy watching La Liga more than any other league.
Okay, yeah, I must admit, it is very expensive, and the few times we've touched upon it on the show, we've kind of gone off, and yeah, you could speak about it for ages. Whilst we're on the topic of the Premier League, and you said obviously there's a lot of strength in depth. For you, who's your favourite for the Premier League this season?
I took Chelsea before ball was kicked, and I ain't moving away from them now. That's for sure. They just look, too strong, and they've got a manager who just knows how to win and get results like that with a type of football that it's hard to watch sometimes. Chelsea, but you cannot take it away from them. He ekes it out. The question really, Ben, is that how much is that the type of football that much money buys? That's it. Because I tried to watch some of that game and try to watch Chelsea, and I was so disappointed in the manner in which they played. And yet, the realistic part of it is that the job was done, and they nearly got away with 3 points. So who can argue with that? Well, you know what, then I can, because it's not my type of football. And I can just say, thanks, I get it. I understand the tactics of it and, the result. Over the long term, when they're lifting up the trophy, that's the type of games they'll look back and say, there you go. Well, if that's what you want to watch, then good luck to you. I'll be over at the other end of the bar watching La Liga.
Just a quick follow-on before I put you on to Joe. Do you think Fabregas, bringing in Fabregas and Costa for Chelsea, that's finally the pinnacle for them? They've got it defensively and they've got it attacking now, and they're the whole shebang, along with Jose Mourinho as well? Yeah,
no, it's fabulous, isn't it? It's great to see Fabregas arriving to such acclaim now. How he's grown as a footballer, developed since he left Arsenal. When he arrived at Arsenal, he was a wonderful player, and he became a man with the Arsenal. But with Courtois and Costa up front, Fabregas being so influential, and that Spanish mix again is just decorated what was always a strong team, and it just shows you. You see what the Spanish connection again at Manchester City. I mean, I'm not making this up, guys. It's just just the cards are there in front of you, and what is it? It's that Latin influence. You go over to Juventus and see who the guy is lighting it up for them. Little Carlito up front, just unstoppable right now. He said he's tough times, I know, but no, the Chelsea for me is by far and away the strongest side and the most capable side, and has a man who knows how to massage a team more than anybody else and get the best out of them. Fair dues to him. He didn't do it at Real Madrid, which was his biggest challenge, and I think that'll always be stuck in his craw. And we know he won a La Liga and he won a King's Cup, but that was it. And in 3 years at Real Madrid, that's not quite cutting it at all. But he lasted, and they felt as if he was going to do it the last year, and it didn't happen. But all the semi-finals of the Champions League, he took them to. He always gets it done, and Mourinho, and I think he'll do it again with Chelsea.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Just going to pass you on to Joe.
Ray, I have a question about the Serie A, and this question actually comes from my brother. We have, with Low Limit Football, we have a live interactive chat. We also have a Facebook page, and I invited people to put questions on there for us. And so the first question from our Facebook page actually comes from my brother, who is a staunch Serie A supporter, and it's inarguable with him. A year ago, he actually sent me a slew of emails mathematically proving that Serie A was the best league in the world.
Yeah.
So he's tough to argue with him, but he's curious. He wanted your opinion on the state of the Serie A, and more specifically, how you think Roma and Juventus will do in the Champions League coming up. If it's something that they can advance on of and go deep into the competition.
Yeah, no, they're both playing wonderful football under their coaches. Juve haven't missed a beat. Allegri's just conducted himself. It ain't broken, just keep your hands off of it. A massive game against the Milan team that's starting to get their act together finally after stumbling around, rebuilding process. But I don't disagree with was it your brother, Joe, that you said?
That's right, my brother sent that question.
Yeah, your brother. I mean, I love Serie A. I absolutely love it, and the passion of the crowd. Even though it's you see big, huge swathes of emptyless, seats, and the stadiums aren't like they used to be, and the glory days ain't coming back real quickly. But if any two teams can point the way forward for Italian football, it's Juve with their progressive club, with their stadium built, just to perfection, the sellout crowds that they get in. Roma's going to do the same. Mr. Parata is doing a wonderful job in regenerating and reinvigorating that club, and the Wolves are looking spectacular. They're actually leading Juve on the difference goals difference, but there's nothing in between the two. And it'll be a wonderful cat and mouse situation all the way down. But you got to love what Garcia has done with this Roma side. The entertainment value, the manner in which they play. Gervinho is just totally resurrected from the shipwreck that he used to be at Arsenal, and is developed into a top-class footballer, top-class striker in the highest form. But I loved the way Napoli played last year. They're struggling strangely. That sort of side is wonderful to watch. You could go on and on. Fiorentina, De Viola, for me, a wonderful, entertaining team that have beautiful cultured footballers strewn throughout the team. And then you get the likes of Verona and Udinese. How the hell they keep doing it? Udinese, I mean, that is one of the strangest things of all the clubs in Italy. The selling that goes on at that club, and how they keep finding new blood to bring in and sell it on again for millions. Somebody's going away with a few suitcases full of cash. But it's off to a great start again this year. Surprisingly, Napoli and Lazio are struggling a little bit.
I was going to say, Udinese keeps recycling Di Natale, and they pocket the cash.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there's a footballer that, again, Di Natale's one of those people who, he's such an iconic footballer in Italy, and yet there's so few people hear of him in Europe, and these are the opportunities that now Roma, some of the young guns at Roma, are going to have. I don't know how far they're going to go in the Champions League. Obviously, they'll need a good run. Juve was disappointing in the Europa last year, where they had everything going in their favour and fell. So this is an important Champions League, I think, for these two teams to show that they're good. I believe they're good enough, right from the man in the sticks to the man at top. Both clubs have got good squads as well. Not the deepest, but very good cover. And I would hope that at least either Roma or Juventus will get to at the very least a quarter-final spot. It would be wonderful for Italian football, and we'll see.
Can Juventus win their fourth Scudetto in a row?
I think Roma's got a lot going for it. I mean, I love the black and white. It's the closest thing to a black and white shirt that I can actually identify with proper football, because the other team at Tyneside ain't doing it. So I've got that affinity with the Zebras. But no, Juve look, imperious, and to go into that stadium and to turn the tide and to give another masterclass to Milan, who were competitive. It was just a one-goal game, so Milan are going to be, hopeful. But I don't know, Joe. I've got a feeling this Roma team learned from last season on where not to drop points, and I think it's going to be nip and tuck all the way down. I don't know if I'd put money on Roma. I'd probably put it on Juventus, but it wouldn't be much. Because I think either one could get past the line.
I agree with you. I think it is going to be much, much closer than we saw last year, where Juventus really quietly ran away with it. So hopefully it'll be certainly more entertaining to watch those matches and watch how those two teams go from here on out. So I'm going to throw it over to Rob. I know Rob has a question for you.
Yes, hi, Ray. Given the good performance that the United States national team had in the World Cup, obviously being drawn in a tough group with Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and advancing out into the round of 16 with a really nerve-wrenching match against Belgium, what do you think is the future for the United States national team after this great performance?
Well, it's full of hope, for sure. It was a typical United States World Cup, in my opinion. Nothing particularly too new in terms of the aesthetic, again, the style points. It wasn't a possession game that Klinsmann was trumpeting. It really wasn't. It was all pretty much the same, and it's good stuff. And they did themselves, they did the coach proud, and the country even prouder. And it could have, should have, would have been a little bit different had the chances gone in. In the development, in the big long road ahead for the United States, I think the question's going to come, and it's already out there, and Klinsmann knows it probably better than anybody. He's importing players as best he can to fill in the gaps, but the whole process of building the youth in the United States with the variety, with the type of footballer that the likes of England, for example, has not been able to produce, is priority number one. I think it should be. Where is the next, the real good evidently talking to Tony Miola, who's involved with the youth development in the United States, very much got his finger on the pulse. He reckons that there's a batch of players coming through the youth system that is going to be that type of footballer that is going to take that next step with the United States in terms of progression. The one thing that I, in my conversations with Jurgen Klinsmann, that really stuck in my mind, though, wasn't in terms of the technical ability of the American footballer coming out of the high schools, the school system, the youth clubs, the collegiate systems. He felt as if that's okay, we're there. We can build the type of team that we need to succeed with that type of quality footballers. As debatable as that is, his argument that you could have that, well, you're not going to win a World Cup, you're not going to get to a semi-final without the likes of a Messi or a Ronaldo or Rooney, if you like, that type of specially gifted footballer. He feels as if they've got those in the slipstream. What Jurgen, and it was a wonderful conversation, and he looked at us with them piercing eyes and says, what we need to have is a mentality in our players that I don't see enough of. And I knew exactly what he meant. And it's not the case of the John Terry banging on the chest approach, but it's something out of that vein, that when games become really very close and very tough, and that's what the United States produced in the World Cup, there's an element that comes out in footballing teams that perhaps what Jurgen was intimating to me that the United States are a little deficient in. Now, there's a multitude of countries around the world that have that same deficiency. The African teams are probably the biggest ones. The gift of the skill in the footballer is there, but there's something else. There's something else within them that he feels as if that's where we need to get to. That is what we need to invigorate in our players. And that is one of the hardest challenges for a national team coach, to shift the identity of the American footballer, the American footballista, the type of player that can produce that sort of character performance as much as a footballing performance. And he feels as if, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, that when we see that, and you'll recognize it, you'll not see it in the tic-tac-toe passes, but you'll recognize it as a combative force within the character of a player and in a team. It can move mountains. We saw it in the World Cup with different teams. And I think that's what the United States is. As vague and as elusive as that aspect is, guys, it's a massive component in developing a team into a champion.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you think that the United States youth academies and MLS academies should change the system, obviously bring players earlier or something like a La Masia or something that can be done at Ajax, Real Madrid, or some clubs like that that are similar?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't. It certainly wouldn't harm things, would it? You know, when you get them at that age. But that's a maze of a question, and that incorporates the whole unity of that vision that Sunil and Jurgen both see together. You know, trying their damnedest to get from that starting point to where it needs to be. And I certainly am not an authority to speak on how they get there, but the academies and the whole process of the development through the youth system all the way through to Bradenton with the national team, all of that interconnections, given the massive expanse of this country and how territorial it can be, and the lack of the highest quality coaching, and that ethic of this is the type of football we produce. It's there in Spain, it's there in the Netherlands, it's there in Germany, and bringing that to the United States, guys, that's a hell of a step. I mean, it's a massive journey to take. But again, and we've all heard this before, but it cannot be overstated again. The United States have achieved in this short time of playing the beautiful game enormously, impressively advanced the game to the extent where it's got the full respect of the world. And it's been in the blink of an eye when it's all said and done. It really has. And there's a lot of people that can be responsible. It's not all about the national team coach, it's the college coaches, the youth coaches, and they can all get better, and they will. But you cannot push that sand through the hourglass. It will take time. But, the prospects for this game in this country has never been brighter. We're all spoilt rotten with the game. Literally, and the domestic league has its problems, but the advances of MLS has been mushrooming out of control, and yet everybody knows nobody's satisfied. It can get better, and it will, as it always has done. It's a ball rocket, it's just going one way.
Yeah, I agree. I hope, hopefully, in the next generation, and when I'm the age of Joe and Ben, and when I have my kids viewing this and playing the sport, that they would do well in a World Cup, hopefully a semi-final or a
you'll
final.
be complaining when your kids are knocking the ball off the wall, off the wall, off the wall. Hey, put that ball away!
Yeah. I have, right? Joe has a question? No?
Yeah, I want to, actually, sticking with the whole U.S. soccer thing, Ray, this is another one that came from my brother on our page. He wanted your opinion on the U.S. players that were based in Europe, like Clint Dempsey, like Landon Donovan at one point, Jermaine Jones, and Michael Bradley. Your thoughts on them coming back to MLS? What do you think that does to U.S. soccer in general?
It's a great fillip, isn't it? It's a great compliment as well. I mean, let's not kid everybody here. They came back because the money was here as well. It's a big component. They got rewarded on a scale that you pay the piper. And after the World Cup. That these players had. The timing was perfect, but it was a sort of gamble, a calculated gamble by MLS to say that we believe that we need these players to keep that profile of the World Cup at a high. And these are the players that in the United States, American blood, to come back home to MLS and be a part of filling out this league. With their personalities, with their characters, with their footballing ability, is a great thing. And all credit to the likes of Seattle and Toronto and Los Angeles in doing this. It's an ongoing process. We've all read and heard about how Bruce Arena wanted to bring back players and hasn't been able to. That process will develop out. We all want it to happen a lot quicker, but MLS has proven to be an expansive commodity, and it will continue. The new developing franchises that are out there now are wonderful. I can't wait for this Orlando thing to happen, of course. I think that has got tremendous people behind it and have a wonderful vision, and everything's geared up. The city's on board, everybody else is behind the whole project, and I believe that is going to be a very successful franchise for as much as I know about MLS. But the whole entity keeps changing, man. It's pretty amazing, and it's an incredible part to live in this country now, seeing the development of the game on the television, in the studios, the transmissions from all the big leagues in the world, all these soccer stations that we've got around the country now. Fox and NBC do a magnificent job. Go TV were the very start, and of course beIN Sports, ESPN. They're just doing marvelous jobs in promoting. They understand. Finally the lights went on in some of them, some of these companies that this game's got a lot to be said for it, and everybody's catching fire. It's very, very exciting, and we know this. But with myself and Sirius XM FC. Likes of Johnny Hawks and Tony Miola, and the way Charlie Stilitano's been bringing up these world-class teams like Real Madrid and Chelsea, Man United, AC Milan, to this country round the clock every summer. It's astonishing. It truly is staggering. And I think a lot of times it's overlooked. I think people who criticise the league, the leagues, the commentators, the television stations for not doing this, not doing that. Why you're not showing this game? Why is Juve on and not Barcelona? They need to have their faces slapped. To be honest with you, that's what they need. And look at what you've got. And just smell the roses. It's just bloody wonderful.
Exactly. I want to bring you back to England quickly, and specifically Wayne Rooney. He was within, I'd say, the past month. He was named captain of both Manchester United and of the English national team. This question comes from our live chat from Troy, who's been a faithful listener of this show for over a year. The year that we've been out. He'd like your thoughts on your thoughts on Wayne Rooney's captaincy over in general.
Well, it's a big move for Van Gaal to turn away from Van Persie, which was everybody's. He was his captain for the Netherlands and thought he would be for Manchester United. He's went with Wayne. And whether or not he can respond to that responsibility, only time's going to tell. It'll be a very interesting season. The club and country captaincy for a player that is certainly at his zenith now. He's at an age now. What is he? 29? Is he now? I think he's 29. He's at his apex physically. In a maturity standpoint, as a person, as a man, as a footballer, what he's went through, and he brings that to the fore for his club. I personally don't think that it does him any favours. And watching the way he's played this season, it's been with all due respect, I think it's been less than overwhelming. It's been. It hasn't really. He hasn't responded, he hasn't let the team down particularly, and certainly Van Persie's not playing up to scratch either. But I just wonder if a player like that is your star man, do you hand that extra burden? We saw it at the weekend in the loss against Leicester, where he lost it a little bit. Did he lose it? Well, he was trying to instill the passion in his teammates, invigorate them, and be that leader. Being a captain's a hell of a lot more than just, losing your temper with players and cracking the whip that way. And who knows what goes on. It's the working week where Wayne Rooney has got to come as a binding force, as a true captain and as a true leader. That's where your captain really sets the tone. In my experience, that's what the best players that have been the best captains have done. They carry it through the working week, and come game day, he is the man that you look to not just inspire with goals. That's not it. Or his involvement with the game. There's something extra. And as integral as Wayne Rooney is in terms of elevating Manchester United, I think the important part of his game should be on the playing side rather than having that added burden. It is a burden. It is a responsibility. I personally wouldn't have looked to Wayne, not that I don't think he's the best player in the team or anything like that, but just is to allow him that freedom of expression without needing to be the forefront leader to instill that pointedness in other players. He needs to take care after himself, but again, that's just my own opinion. I think a lot of Man United fans think, well, if not him, who? And is it going to be the spur for him to greater things? Again, we'll see. If it has been a little bit of a... and certainly his captaincy and his football wasn't the result of that shambolic defending for Manchester, but he is partly responsible for that in a captain's role, in a captain's compass. He is one of the people who put that right through the working week again, along with the coaching staff, in the most subtle ways, in talking to players and bringing them along. So we'll see if he's going to be a true, Manchester United captain.
Okay. I'm going to throw you over to Ben. I know Ben's got a couple of La Liga questions, and I know I have one left. And then I've got a couple of fun questions for you, and then we'll stop holding you up to let you get to the Detroit Tigers tonight. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just a question about Liverpool, actually, that's come from chat and Balotelli specifically. I was just wondering whether you think Balotelli will continue to act up now he's at Liverpool, and if you think he will remain a distraction to them.
Well, it's a tough one, Ben. This player has been, such an enigma, hasn't he? And that's, I think, probably the fairest word to place around him. As wonderfully gifted as he has been, everybody remembers the European Championship where Italy were magnificent and Balotelli was the leader of leaders. I mean, even in front of some of the more astute footballers in that team, he was inspirational, and that was Mario at his best. Everything in terms of a footballer, in a personality, and is a leader by example, and that has fallen away in bits and pieces in various different times with his different clubs, and it continues, it seems. Where he's going to find that, that sweet resting ground, who knows? I don't know. And I mean, I have no clue. Nobody knows how he's going to respond. Again, why always me? Was what he had on his T-shirt, of course, when he played in England not so long ago, when he scored that penalty kick. And it's happened again with this ridiculous situation now when he tweeted out something so innocent and so in such a way, 3 little words, Man United, LOL. I mean, it doesn't get any more, childish, if you like, and petty. And he came in for the most savage, racial abuse from true racists. They're not Man United supporters. These people are off a different planet, cavemen, if you like, and are off a planet, and it was horrendous. And this is the latest episode, and it seems to follow this man around like a shadow. And you can you blame him for that? I mean, yeah, it was a little bit, poking the finger in the eye sort of thing, but nothing untoward. I mean, hell, there's players that have came out on Twitter with a lot more the pointedness than that. But it's Balotelli, and he's opened that door again. Should he have done that? He probably shouldn't. As innocent as it was, but he's made a rod for his own back, and you can argue the toss all night long. But that's him. That's just who he is. It seems to find him the trouble. But we hope that this particular episode is unsavoury and poisonous as it is, with that aspect to it, that the police can get more involved. And that's a good thing about that sort of thing happening in England. The authorities have the capacity to seek these rats out that abused a good man. Whatever you say about him as a footballer, he doesn't deserve that sort of treatment. Nobody does, and that element needs to be rooted out. But as I said, Mario's got a way of provoking that sort of reaction, even when it's having a laugh or having a little bit of a jibe at an opponent's misfortune. It's tough.
Yeah, I do think he there was a part of it was just kind of, I think he was kind of just acting out what it would be like to, I mean, obviously my 30th birthday's, in a couple of weeks, but like when you're kind of that mid kind of 20s, young 20s, and you just want to have fun. And I mean, there's a lot of people that if you had that kind of money in your bank, then, you probably would do a few little things. So I think we're all
and it's, we remember what Gaza did, Paul Gascoigne, when he played for Glasgow Rangers, playing the flute in front of the Celtic fans, which was, you don't do that, you don't do that. And when you're a Liverpool player, you don't really stick a finger in the eye of Manchester United after they've just been, rubbed into the ground by Leicester. Even though it's tempting as it can be, you just, there's no need to do that, especially if you're Mario Balotelli. I mean, if it had been one of the other players, probably, even if Stevie Gerrard had done it, it would never have got that sort of, or even Raheem, I think, Sterling, if he'd have done it, it wouldn't probably have came out with that vitriol. But it's I don't know if it's down to him or if it's naivety or what, but I hope he has a good landing in Liverpool, because his chances are starting to run out, and the footballer that he is deserves to have a higher success rate than what he's had been. When is he going to turn that corner and become the type of player that everybody that knows what a footballer is knows that he's got it. It's there, but it's not as simple as that. There's other parts of the recipe that are that have got to be mixed into a player.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about him numerous times on the show, and we spoke about how whether Brendan Rodgers, because we all agreed he's a great man manager, especially what he done with Swansea beforehand, and we kind of thought if anyone can sit him down and get through to him and get the best out of him, because you just got to feel that. I mean, for me, Balotelli's still one of the best finishers in the world. If you can get him playing like we know he can, then it'll it's a big coup for Liverpool, and we heard that they also put a lot of clauses in his contract. Something about fines, like major fines, if he continues to act up. So I think everyone's on tender hooks along with you to see how and what he does, and how many goals he can score and what he can contribute to the Liverpool team.
I think with a player like him, the confidence is so much a part of, if you can see it in his personality. He's just radiant with his confidence anyway. But when there's nothing for a footballer, I talked with Christian Vieri about this, there's nothing that invigorates the player that is the hit man up front more than the rattle of the back of the net. You've seen it with Costa, with Chelsea. I remember when Balotelli had his, I can't remember who it was against, guys, you'll have to help me out here, but his debut game when he had a couple of great chances in front of goal. One in particular I remember was a header that he should have scored on. And if those ones go in, it's a changing of the tide in a forward. He will get he'll get his goals. We know that, but all I'm saying is that at the early advent of his career in England, had the goals went in the early part of it, he's a different player altogether. He takes the next big step up, and as you say, Ben, I think Brendan, with his sweet nature if you like, and that little touch of Harry in the night, as I always say that Shakespeare has always recited. That touch means a lot to a player like Mario Balotelli, but he knows as well that he's got to repay it by the goals going in, and it hasn't caught traction yet. So, when it does, if it does, he'll certainly move up a big gear. Suarez was the same as a footballer, the type of player that just feeds off of that, and the snowball gets bigger going down a snowy hill. That's what happens with a goal scorer. And I hope it works out for Balotelli. I've seen too much good in him, within his feet, in his passing, in his movement, in his strength, and in his penalty box predator assault on another team. As you said, he's got it, but it's got to come out of him. It has got to come out this season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. I think we were just talking between us what game it was. We think it was a Ludogorets game that you was talking about in the Champions League.
Yeah.
They just screwed through 2-1. But yeah, I mean, it can make and break someone like Balotelli. But I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about confidence. Whilst we're going to move it over, Ray, because obviously we don't want to keep you for the whole time. I know you've got to have some kind of social life. We're not being fair to you, but we're going to shift it over to the league. I've only got one more question for you. I won't keep all night, I promise. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about La Liga, like I said. Obviously, everyone's talking a lot about Real Madrid and Barcelona after the masses of business they did in the transfers in the summer. Who's your favourite for La Liga now, and why?
It's still, even with Chelsea's situation there, it's still too early to tell if Man City are going to be able to be kept at bay. And same in Spain. France is another one. You look at that, it seems to be, the big glamour club of PSG are not falling away, but have got their own problems, and you would think that, well, that's Aladdin's cave. What problems can they have? Well, it's football. It's damn football. Like Ferguson said, football, bloody marvellous. Nobody can predict it. Barcelona are perfect. I mean, they haven't conceded. The goalkeeper's been tested, I think, twice. Literally 2 shots at the Barcelona goal. That cannot be right, but it's something like that. It's amazing. Everything's right. I mean, the players that brought in have settled in nicely. Mathieu has looked assured. I would say 80% of the time. He's had 1 or 2 mishit clearances, but his covering at the back has led his stability. A new goalkeeper that is fitting in well, and Ter Stegen got somebody to keep him on his toes. So even Piqué cannot get in the team right now. Mascherano not able to get into the midfield. If they move him up into the midfield, they cannot dispose Busquets and Rakitic and Iniesta. Xavi cannot even get in the team. So, and Suarez hasn't even had a sniff at the Camp Nou yet. So, he's waiting to come into the big cabaret, and he should be Lisa Minnelli. He should be Lisa Minnelli in the cabaret. But Suarez, who the hell knows? He should add a lot. How much is he going to disturb the balance and the chemistry of this team? He may accent it. They may go up. That's part of the intrigue. Real Madrid stumbling a little bit at the start of the season, starting to get it really back in gear after bouncing back in the European game. And a wonderful performance at the weekend against the worst goalkeeper in the world, I've got to admit. And Herman Lux was like oh God, he was a poor guy. But the high-class quality of the goals, half of them were just stupendous by Real Madrid. But that's a team still again, guys, they look as if they're finding that balance. All of them are just starting to, get accustomed to one another. These new signings taking time to bed in. Like I said earlier, Paris, they're having the same problems. Chelsea, less so. They've been the ones that have, everything's been, Maria Callas, operatic high note every time. So I still think it'll be down to either Barcelona or Real Madrid this year. I don't think it'll be Atletico. I said when they lost the players that they did with Felipe Luis and Costa, and especially Courtois in goal, there's no way they'll do it. And people were saying, well, they're still a great team, which they are. Wonderful manager, magnificent, unquestionably. And I'm not dismissing what they achieved last year. Nobody could. Champions League finalists, arguably the better team for a big part of the game. But champions of Spain, but I don't think they'll be champions of Spain come the end of this season. And between Real Madrid and Barcelona, I think it will come down to the last couple of games again, and I really wouldn't want to say which one that I fancy to win. Honestly, I mean, I think it'll be that close. It's flip of a coin. And if you put a gun to my head, I would say probably Real Madrid has got the greater depth and greater cover to see it out, but they've got to make up 6 points on Barcelona already, so who knows?
The only reason I asked you, I was actually going to say, since you're a gambling man, if you had to. The reason I asked is because at the beginning of every season, we try to get a prediction on each league, and both my co-commentators have gone for Barcelona, and I went for Real Madrid. I just wanted to see whether you were siding with me or siding with them. But you've answered the question anyway. We'll say slightly Real, so we'll write down me and you versus M2, but thanks for that, Ray.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna pass you on to Rob. He's got just the last questions for you to round it off.
All right, guys.
All right. Just one question. Who do you think you see to win the Champions League this season?
Well, I think I'd go for Bayern Munich, Rob. I think they'll do it this year. I think Chelsea's in with a tremendous shout as well. Undeniably going to be strong. I really think that this season for Barcelona is going to be a tough one in terms of the adjustment. They're still not ultra convincing in the defensive depth. So I think they may be found out. I would say the same with PSG as well. The team that, for me, always flies under the radar and continues to do so is Borussia Dortmund. That team, there's something about them that is just the witching way. They've got the most wonderful coach, but there's a unity in that team. They've lost big players, but they've bought very, very well. They had injuries to the side last year. It wouldn't surprise me to see Dortmund spring a shocker, but I think it will be Bayern Munich towards the end. I still think Munich will have too many guns and has the best coach in the world for me in Guardiola. But I think the English flag will be flying high. I think Chelsea will be right there or thereabouts at the finish as well. So for me, Bayern Munich with some, teams that are going to be running it down. I don't think Real Madrid will get to the big dance this year. I think they certainly want La Liga back as well, but they're just a little unconvincing for me so far. It's very early in the tournament, and then maybe Ancelotti can bind them together again the way they did last year, because they were legitimate champions of Europe, I felt, last year. And Cristiano's had one or two little hiccups as well, being a little bit sending signs out that he's not happy. There's one or two, funny feelings in Real Madrid this year. It was a perfect storm last year. I just don't think it will be this time. It's a hell of a hard job to repeat as champions of Europe. Nobody's ever done it in the Champions League. So is Real Madrid going to be the first? I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't be shocked, of course, as nobody would if they pulled it off. It would be Ancelotti's greatest ever achievement, and arguably the greatest achievement in coaching history if he does that again after winning La Decima. But I'll take Bayern Munich.
All right. I think Joe has a question.
Yeah, Ray, I just have a comment and a question, and then we'll let you go. The first one, the comment starts with a question. Are you doing the football show tomorrow morning?
I am on the football show tomorrow morning, yes, if I can get to bed.
Who are you ghosting with?
With John Hawkes. Hawkes is on with me tomorrow.
Good. I'll be listening, as you guys are always standard listening in the morning. The favor I have to ask is, can you please ask Charlie Stilitano to get on Twitter?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'll mention it to him. I don't think Charlie... you know what? Honestly, Joe, I wouldn't be on Twitter myself if it wasn't a prerequisite of being sports. When I came on board with them, it was a must-do, and it was really in the first few months. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea anyhow, but there was this lovely girl called Stephanie that held me hand and walked me through it, and really put the training wheels on me, because you need that when you enter into that fray. And Stephanie was basically doing it for me for the first couple of months, and I was just, sending her emails on what to say. But then, once I got the hang of it, then it's become all me. Stilitano hasn't got anybody like that. And his wife isn't going to be involved in that, I'll tell you that for sure. So, poor Charlie there, he's still stuck there with his text messaging, and that's enough for Charlie. So I doubt that's going to happen, Joe. I can't imagine Charlie being on the Twitter, but I'll ask him.
And it never hurts to try. So my last question for you, and this is a question that we've asked George DeMatteis and we asked Jeremy St. Louis, and we're keeping score. Who's your favorite person to work with at Be In Sport?
My favorite person to work with it's got to be Phil. It has to be Phil. I mean, he's a whole lot to Phil Shane, and he's been a good partner for a lot of years. Drives us up the wall a lot of the time, but probably Phil at the end of it. He's such a sweet man. He's such a knowledgeable. He's an anorak, is what he is. You know what I mean, Ben? I mean, this guy is the biggest anorak in the United States. There's nobody like him. Nobody like him. I mean, he's literally the walking Wikipedia for football. A staggering amount of knowledge, and it's all useless, and he doesn't care, because he's just a big anorak, and the biggest Guna fan, loves his Arsenal. But he got a wealth of knowledge through the history of the game here in the United States and around the world. Far, far, far more than I do. There's parts of it you just need to walk away from, Phil, though, because once you get into a conversation with him about football, man, and think, oh God, Phil, all right, man, I get it. Let's watch me Tigers, will you? And he doesn't have any association with any American sports. He hates football. He hates the NBA. He hates the NFL. He hates the hockey league. He doesn't like baseball. It's all football. There's something wrong with that guy, I'm telling you.
Well, he is the best. There's always the debate of who's the best American commentator for football in this country, and he is by far the winner of that award.
Phil's great.
Top class. So honestly, we were going to pursue him to come on our show because we'd love to talk to him. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the good word, we'd really appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you think I've in a gas bag, you'll never get a word in with Shane, but, good luck to you.
No, thank you, Ray.
I'll pass
Thank
it
you.
on. I'll pass it on, guys. All right. Thanks, Joe, Rob, Ben. Been tremendous. And I'm going to watch the Tigers. I don't even know if they're playing tonight.
Well, hopefully if they do, hopefully they'll win for you. So thank you again for joining us. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right,
thanks
guys.
for them, Ray.
Take care.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks, boys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Nice.
So that was Ray Hudson. Guys,
Wow.
what do you think, man?
Amazing. Really energetic. A lot of passion.
That was awesome. Troy even said it was a good show in the chat there. I'm sorry SirBob missed it, but wow. I'm seriously, I'm on cloud nine. I thought it was great. And the sad thing is that I know we tied him up for over an hour. We could have asked him another 3 hours worth of questions, and I'm sure he would have chirped it.
He would have been obliged.
Oh, yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
guys, we do have one order of business left, and I'm going to kick it over to you while I thank him on Twitter. SirBob's ManCity Corner. Let's talk about the Bayern Munich match this weekend.
Do you want to? I take it you want me to start this?
Ben, go ahead.
Obviously, Bayern Munich, Man City in the Champions League. It was in Germany. It was at Bayern. Although Bayern Munich did have quite a lot of the play and a lot of the ball here. Just to give you some stats to humble over. Bayern Munich 21 shots, 8 on target. Man City with 7 shots and 2 on target. Bayern with 57% of the possession. Although Bayern, they had more of the ball, more of the chances. Man City can count themselves a little unlucky. For me, I mean, the goal wasn't scored till the 90th minute. Joe Boateng, like I said, last minute winner in the opening game. It was an absolute screamer. It took a slight deflection off Goethe as well, and just flew across Hart. After Man City slightly poor, couldn't quite get the corner away, and they got punished. But like I said, Bayern controlled the majority of the match, and really, if it hadn't been a certain Joe Hart, which it seems to get a lot of it seems to be talked about a lot on this show. Yeah, he had a great game. For me, 3 or 4 really, really top draw saves kept Man City in the game, and for all intents and purposes, I thought Man City could come away. I thought they would come away with something from this game. I thought they'd done it, but it wasn't to be. But I mean, really, you look at this on the face. Going to Germany, only losing 1-0, and even that, okay, it's you're coming away and you think, oh, I've lost there, but it's not really a bad result. Not many teams are going to go to Bayern Munich and keep it that close for that longer period of time. So they can't really be that down upon themselves. In fairness, Bayern Munich really did struggle to win this game. But I think the news, the bad news, it was a bit coupled for City in the fact that Roma thrashing CSK 5-1. That was probably worse news, should we say? The fact that for me, the main rivals for Man City in the group not winning, but the fact that they won by such a big margin is going to put pressure on Man City now, because obviously if Man City go away and even if they beat Roma by a goal, it still puts Roma ahead on goal difference and quite a big goal difference in what is essentially a 6-game league. So it's a difficult task now for City. They definitely have to beat Roma, and as if the Man City Roma wasn't a big game, it's now a massive game.
Yeah, and that game comes up in 2 weeks. Again, they were a little unfortunate not to at least pull away with a point against Bayern Munich. I thought they played very, very well, and certainly there's a ton of quality there. I think SirBob just joined us in the chat. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's unfortunate for them to not walk away with a point. And like you said, Ben, combined with the result in the Roma match with them winning by so much, it's almost like an extra game that they'd have to overcome at this point. So, Rob, what were your thoughts on the whole matchup? Or did we lose Rob?
No.
Oh,
Sorry. Man City Bayern, you were talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about Man City Bayern. What were your thoughts on the matchup, and the result and what that does for Man City?
I think we knew that this was going to be a hard match in Munich anyway. And obviously I haven't even... If it wasn't for that Boateng goal in the 89th minute or so, I think it would have been a well-deserved draw, in all honesty.
True. So, and of course, SirBob joins us at the very, very last minute, and he was playing in the WCOOP, which is the World Series of Online Poker, World Championship of Online Poker on PokerStars. He's lucky enough, just like Troy is, to still have online poker and be able to play freely in a free country. So guys,
I do, so I can't really complain.
Oh, that's right, you do too. Yeah, Rob, you and I are screwed. That's just how it is. So, I'm gonna roll the closing music, guys. I think we've broken everybody's ears off long enough tonight. So, Rob, I'm gonna go to you. Any closing thoughts from tonight's show?
No, I think Ray Hudson was a great guest, and I think a lot of passion, a lot of energy, especially for someone that age. I really did enjoy tonight's show today.
I thought it was
and
awesome.
I hope that he could spread out the word and that we can get more people on the show in the nearby future.
Absolutely. And we are working on Ian Joy right now, who's one of his co-workers, so hopefully we'll get that one wrapped up soon. Ben, how about you? Any closing thoughts?
Just on what Rob said, really. I think it was a great show. It's brilliant to have Ray on here. And like I said, we're getting bigger and bigger guests and people that are prepared to chat and they know their football, so hopefully we'll keep getting more interesting people on the show and we can talk to a few other people and get our name out there a bit and and hopefully like we was talking before, talking amongst ourselves, the listening numbers have gone up a lot since we've started to get more viewers as well, so thank you to our loyal listeners, to Joy and to Bob and to the few others that listen on YouTube as well and listen to the reruns. Thank you for always being there and from the beginning, and hopefully we can spread wider and further and we can impress you all with more guests in the future.
Agreed. Again, thanks to Troy, thanks to Sir Bob for coming in. I know you came in late and I don't care if you come in 2 seconds before or 2 seconds before the start of the show. We're just thankful that you come in and chat with us. So coming up next week, we're going to cover the MLS as that playoff race gets a little tighter. We're going to talk the European scores and highlights. We'll give you the CONCACAF Champions League results. We will start to preview a couple of Champions League and Europa matches, and of course, we'll give you the Blackburn banter, the ManCity Corner, and hopefully one of two guests we are currently efforting, profusely. So, for episode 43 of Low Limit Football, I am Joe Usello.
I'm Ben the Machine.
And I'm Roberto Rojas.
Thanks again for joining us, and good night.
Thank you for listening. Good night.
Thank you.